And we're live. G'day, everyone. Good to see you here. We've got a bit of a happy crowd. Looks like it. Blizzard in the Netherlands. Wonderful. Oh, my sunny voice. Oh, thank you, Alex. Yeah, just warming up the milk. I've actually had a bit, actually, since then. It's nothing like some nice, it's lukewarm, you know, so it's raw. I don't want to lose nutrition, so it's just lukewarm, and it's just, exactly. Nice, just on, it's 6 o'clock, and just nicely to finish the day with a bit of warm milk. Yes, it's the morning. It's the evening. 6 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. Hello, Melina. Yes, we've got some of the gang here, which is good to see. Angela, good to see you as well. Damn, it's cold in Poland. Girl, you're freezing your butt off. So snowstorm here. I don't know temperature. Yeah, fair enough. But snowstorm, I'd say it's quite cold. Just the wind shear factor would yeah, freeze you to the bone. So yep. Good to see you, Richard. How's Kiwi land? Okay, -6. Not as cold as Poland, but cold. That is cold still. We are actually in Tasmania. Unless you go to the southwest, you don't get that sort of weather. Even in Launceston, which is the north, they tend to be like the coldest I've actually got in the heart of winter is probably -2 or 3. But I've never heard -6 or anything like that. And Hobart, it's always even in winter, about the lowest I've actually seen in Hobart is probably 2 degrees Celsius, so it's, borderline sort of in that regard. I'm trying to remember the actual code. So what is it? 9 divided by 5 times, that's exactly 1.8 times 2 degrees Celsius, which is 35.6 degrees Fahrenheit. Yes. Why would I fucking know a formula of how to convert Celsius to Fahrenheit? Yeah, I know. It's one of those stupid things that you learn through your life. So you always, oops, I better, Bjorn, I better make him visible. And Alex, Richard, what are you doing? Angela, make Bjorn visible. He was sitting there waiting. Just because he put the word fuck in. I use it all the time. It's a beautiful word. If used appropriately and in the right sort of environment. Yes. Anyway, let's move on before I say too much. Good morning, Cynthia. Good to see you. The man. Good to see you, mate. And StreamYard's not giving me any more, so I have to wait. Yes, we're at the bottom, waiting for StreamYard to basically pop Bjorn's sort of comment. Good morning, good people of the world. It's cold as fuck here in Norway too. What the snow, man. Thanks for that. Yes, we're sunny. We had a beautiful sunny day today. So, yeah, I know I'm rubbing it in, but, we're in the Southern Hemisphere after all. It's just seasonal, so don't worry. In a couple of months, you will be warm as well. But it's been a nice day. Actually went over to Dad's, had a nice meal. I went and got my, unfortunately, I was hoping to get 3 kilos of the Italian sausages, but they only had 2. So I had to buy a different variety. It's actually a Texan, where they've got, like, it's very spicy. They've made this, they call it a Texan sausage, beef sausage, with a lot of spicy stuff. So I actually got a bit over a kilo of that, and about a kilo of burgers as well. So they actually make them their own. This sort of butcher actually has awards. So they make the traditional stuff, no fillers, no nothing. They actually make them and sell them. So they don't make large quantities because there's no preservatives in them. So you basically, they're in the fridge, get them out, you sell them, and they have to go, so to speak. But it's really nice stuff that they make. Oh, it's just their sausages. Last time, like, even some people that don't really like sausages, they were going for them. And I said, do you guys realize I only pay an extra $1 per kilogram for these sausages? And you guys are going and buying stuff at the supermarkets, which has got full of fillers and garbage in it. And you're actually only paying $1 less to get garbage. And I'm going, why don't you wake up to yourselves? And I mean, they use it like all the supermarket stuff they use, or collagen powder and some other stuff, and they combine it to make like a plastic, and they use those gums and all that plant-based stuff to combine it to make those sort of the outer part, which is just crap. I don't know what's happening with StreamYard. It's just stopped. I might as well just keep on talking. And these guys actually use the intestine of the animal. There's nothing, no preservatives, no fillers, no nothing. The only thing is herbs, a number of herbs, and they're all cured with a lot of salt. So they do have salt in there because that's the only preservative that they can put in there. So it's a very traditional way of actually doing sausages, and God, are they nice. They are really nice. I'm going to enjoy the barbecue tomorrow and on our regatta public holiday. So that will be really nice to just chill out. I actually went round to my mate to drop the stuff off so I wouldn't have to carry it home and then back again, because I was at Dad's and I went and picked it up. And so sat there, had a drink with him, talked a bit of shit, and then just basically he said, do you realise you have to go? I go, what do you mean? He said, it's fucking past 5 o'clock. Don't you have a 6 o'clock thing? And I go, oh, yeah, you're right. Because normally I don't have an evening thing. Now I'm having it on a regular basis. So you should be happy. Sean reminded me and said, you need to fucking get out of here. I need to go to the gym and you need to get to your program. And I said, oh, I better get moving. He said, you're not having a second drink. So I only got 1 gin out of him. That was it. That was nice, actually. $70, really nice bottle, expensive stuff. So I said, I enjoyed that. I did want a second one, but shit happens. Sausages are better with skin peeled. Anyhow, Harry, this is the intestinal tract. Traditional, mate. Traditional. It's like that cucurezzi where we wrap the organ meats with the intestinal, and it gives that crispy thing. That's all collagen. That's the sort of stuff. That's why, that's good for your gut. It's giving back and giving all the building blocks back to your gut. You should be happy. Traditional sausages are fantastic. The flavors when you actually do them properly and all that, and they tend to have more fat. They have got these large fat pieces of fat in them, and I've got pork ones, and these the Italian ones, the pork with these fat pieces. I mean, Sean had last time these French ones. They really, it was like 50%. Well, probably not 50, 40% fat, and the rest meat. You could see just these large pieces of fat in the whole sausage. That was really beautiful. I really enjoyed those sausages. Yeah. And they were also traditional, a bit on the more pricier point. It's a Sandy Bay store, and it's sort of like a boutique butcher, but they make these really French varieties of really fatty sausages. Oh, God, are they beautiful. They are wonderful. Making me hungry. G'day, Dave. Good to see you, mate. How's the weather in Barcelona? I hope it's good. Start making, your own sausages, Harry. It's easy and great fun. I bet it is. Look, when you've got a good, when you've got a good sort of sauce, why knock it? You know, I mean, I don't have the time. I do a lot of things. I have actually, with Dad, made sausages in the past, traditional Greek sausages and stuff like that. And you basically we used actually the gut of the intestinal tract of the lamb. So Dad used to get me to wash them out constantly. Yeah, I was a slave. So basically I used to wash them out, and basically we used to fill them up and then tie, at the end. And so they were beautiful. But we used to make those sort of sausages you hung up to dry, those sort of, they were nice. God, I miss that stuff. I probably should get back into it. You're right. My father's cardiologist is considering fucking stents for him. What can I give my father now? High doses of MK4, taurine, and niacin. Yep, you would go. If he basically doesn't have much of a blockage, and they're all only talking about stents, so he's not at any risk. He doesn't have any soft tissue. Stents are really a problem. The problem with stents is that you end up be giving these thinners because to prevent clotting. So it's quite dangerous because you can actually get a lot of clotting factors. It's a very unnatural thing to put a metal thing in there, mesh, and it actually has it's like a poison which they use in chemotherapy. Yeah, I know. Stents are really bad. And all the studies have actually shown they don't work. In the long run, they fail. They're shit. And a lot of places are basically trying to get people to take other approaches and monitor rather than stent. So it depends on the doctor. Most of the doctors, they just want to fucking make money. All the specialists, they're a bunch of rich pricks. But at the end of the day, it's your father's choice what he does. But, when you're looking at like high dose, we're talking about 45 milligrams, the type that I talk about. But you have to be on a low inflammatory diet. Taurine is very important. You have to work him. If he's on low blood pressure meds, he needs to be adjusted. So you need to go slowly from 1 gram to 6 grams. So you need the taurine to break down all the fibrotic tissue, and niacin is pretty good as well. Go low at 50 milligrams because you probably can't tolerate that higher level with food to make it easy for him. Also L-citrulline for vasodilation, which is, nitric oxide, so you can actually vasodilate properly. So that's what I would sort of do. And that's what I did to reverse a lot of mine. It does take time, but it does work in the end. And that's where the focus. But at the end of the day, it's his choice. You've got to realize that you can try, but at the end of the day, people need to make their own choice and take responsibility for the consequences, unfortunately, next month, I'll be actually doing a proper video on this subject matter. Anyway, I every day eat raw sausage, pork, deer, and beef. Sounds good, Alex. Venison sausages are top tier breakfast food. I like pork sausages. I'm just a pork man. So, if it does not have 30+% fat, it's not a snag. You're right. Exactly, Mr. H. You actually think the way I think. If it's not a fucking fatty sausage, it's not a sausage. I want my sausage to be nice, soft, and juicy, fatty, So, I mean, these French ones, they had about 40+. I mean, they were just big clumps of fat. God, were they decadent. God, were they were really so tasty. Oh, get your mind back on the program. You know what I mean. Yes, thank you, Mr. H, for reminding me. I just had that warm, fuzzy feeling. Yes, Richard. Good to see you agree. I'm cooking up some broth on self-hunted deer bones and meat. It's so good. I actually have never had broth from deer bones. Interesting. What does it taste like? Have I tried Iberic pork? Yes, I have. It's really nice. And cured meats from that type of pork as well. Yes, nothing like the Spanish, the Iberian Peninsula, wild venison and wild pig sausages. I mean, you guys have seen my recent stuff that I've done on the sort of the American and the early stages where, you know, pork, polis, a city designed for production of pork. That's what the Americans used to consume in the past. No cardiovascular disease, none of all these diseases and all that. Pork, lard was their main fat that they cooked in. Pork, lard, dairy, and seafood. They were the big things. 3 times the seafood now. So, you know, as I said, populations have been eating this way for very long. You go, the Germans, they were, you know, I mean, now you think the Germans, oh, they eat beef. No, traditionally they were a pork eating population. You know, so, you know, pork is great. Okinawans, longest lived people. Pork friendly population. Sardinians, pork friendly population. You saw the stuff of Icaria with Mary, pork friendly. I grew up on pork. You know, we need to stop demonizing. We need to basically remind these fuckwits out there, these cockwombles, what our real history is about pork. Even the chimps hunt little piglets, okay? When we were basically little hominins, what do you think we were hunting? Big fucking animals? No, we were basically still hunting small little piglets because they were fat and they provided more energy in the savannah. And then we were scavenging some stuff that we got from the lions left over. So basically, you know, that's the sort of stuff we need to basically be eating. We've been eating it for millions of years, the hominins. You think we haven't acquired an adaptation yet? And you've got fuckwits, cockwombles out there telling you how bad pork is. What a bunch of wankers. Yes, sounds fantastic. I'm getting hungry. Yeah, I know. But I'm fasting for today. Yeah, I know. I just did a 5-day fast between from Sunday midday last week to Friday afternoon sort of thing. Just around about 120 odd hours. So that was fun. I hadn't done that for a while since last year. And I couldn't actually remember, and somebody reminded me, I'm trying to remember who reminded me, that I actually did it last time in October of last year. So, yes. So it's been a while. I do a bit of that's right, because I actually did it for COVID, the reset, a second reset. Yes, that was it. Winter sunshine here in Barcelona, Harry. Sounds beautiful, mate. Maybe better vitamin D levels. You should be out there in the sun, basically, you know, like a basically naked lizard, mate. Really enjoy the sun. Let it all hang out, mate. Let it all hang out. Is that right, Richard? Oops. Thank you, StreamYard, for just basically jumping. Yes, that's easy. It's good stuff. Vasodilator, and also exactly taurine, on the other hand, also regulates blood pressure and also helps with the actual balancing the electrolytes and the osmotic, the fluids. So very good, taurine. Very good for the kidneys as well. So yes, it's great stuff. It clears out beta amyloid in the brain. It clears out fibrotic tissue everywhere in all the different organs. It's fantastic stuff. You know, if you've got fatty liver or got cirrhotic liver, get yourself up to 6 grams of taurine. Yes, if you've been an alcoholic, that is, in the past. Anyway, Soza, good to see you, mate. Does nice and increase hot flushes for postmenopausal women. You're not immune. just because you're a woman, you will get flushes if you take too much. That's why I usually recommend it. Alex actually put me on to using milk and combining milk with ice, and it tends to actually reduce the flushes. It actually is it does work. And also, I think it was Alex. If I'm wrong, please comment. And the other thing, Angela, I usually took it with food, but I still got low grade because I was taking a bit of a high dose, 250 milligrams. I sort of cut back to 125 plus the milk, and it sort of eliminated it. So it's much easier. I have it every second day, which gives me about 60 odd. And from what I get from the food, I nearly get about 90 or 100. So I get more than enough. So yeah, I'm on water fasting for 2 days. Feel great. Sounds good. Yeah, mine was a 5-day water fast. It wasn't a dry fast. I've only done one dry fast, and that was for a 24-hour, and didn't really enjoy it. So have you tried? Yep, I did. I did say that earlier. Yep. And moving on. 8 o'clock. New Zealand. Oh, yes, Sam. Oh, no, what am I saying? No, 8 a.m. UK. That's it. And you're in the UK, are you? Or not? Where are you, Sam? Can't remember now. I think is it 7 o'clock in the UK? Yes, it is. Where are you located, Sam? And are you on the continent, so to speak? I dreamt about meat now, and I've done 48 hours with only mountain water, 32 ppm. Yeah, so you're basically going, oh. You know the worst thing on the first day? When I was walking past places, and you got the smells, the woof of the food, and I'm going, oh. Once I get over, Germany. Yes, do have friends with a German background, even in Australia. So actually, one of them, Michael, he actually sells sausages down in Salamanca Market. Beautiful sausage, traditional German sausages. Wonderful. Nice fatty sausages. His own they're homemade type. Absolutely beautiful German sausages. So I had a nice pork sausage. My mate Sean had a beef one. I think I got the better sausage out of that one. Yes. Yeah. What was I saying about that's right. I was actually talking about Neff, about the actual, what I do on the first day. I tend to I do long walks. I do, high intensity, like high intensity exercise, like running short distances, or basically doing certain activities. And then after that, I do weights in the morning, weights in the evening when I get back from work. So I literally just go like flat out. I actually up my fat and lower my protein and eliminate any even dairy. I just take dairy out completely on the day before my fast, and I just go really, really hard to deplete the glycogen, so I can push myself into a much deeper ketotic state, and then it makes it easier. It's a cruise then. So that's how I get around. Yeah. Yes. Anyway, Spanish are amazing on cured meats. Yeah, they are. They got beautiful stuff. Yep. Italians as well got some really nice cured meats, and so do Greeks. It's just different styles, slightly different herbs and different varieties. But it's a lot of it's through that area. But Northern Europe has a lot of really nice, especially the sort of Germanic areas. They have some really nice traditional pork type dishes and stuff like that I really enjoy as well. So anyway, yep, that is coming up next month. and Okinawans used to eat a lot of pork in the past. Not sure about not a lot of the young people. Yeah, it's like Jakarta that Mary was talking about. The young people are sort of, they're not eating like the old people did, you know, where they'd have pork belly at lunch. I mean, you're not going to get a young person doing that anymore. Young people are very different. They've sort of adopted a lot of non-traditional eating habits, which is unfortunate. More processed crap and all that. And I don't think they're going to have that longevity that their parents had or their grandparents. Simple as that. You know, it's unfortunate, but that's the reality. But we can learn from these populations that had those traditions and try to emulate them, and then try to keep that knowledge for when the generations, their health goes to shit, and they need that knowledge to basically find a way back to health. So that's why we're here, you know, public service in a sense. Yes. I think I'm going to break the fast in 12 days with sheep legs grilled. Oh, you're doing a long one, mate. Fuck. Yes. Make sure, you know, you've got, I'm going to do a fasting this week on exactly what I take to support a whole lot of enzymatic pathways in the body, so you don't get into any trouble and your body works like a clock. I will do that in the next couple of days, so you will have a really good video to follow on my take on fasting compared to other people, because I don't follow other people. I look at what the excretion rates are of humans of different things and what is biologically required for the body to do the functions that it needs, even in a fasted state. So thank you, the man. Pork is perfect human food, perfect fat ratio. Exactly. It is much more one-to-one fat. You know, you got a pork steak. I mean, tomorrow I bought all that sort of stuff, but I also have got the other contribution I'm making is a whole lot of other pork steaks, which are really thick pork steaks. And I'm going to fucking enjoy them. And I said to Dad, because he's coming to the barbecue as well, it's going to be probably 15 to 20 of us. And I said to Dad, you know, he said, oh, do you want it? And I said, don't worry, I've got all the stuff. You don't need to bring anything. And I said, I got some really nice pork steaks. And you should have seen the smile on his face and the grin. You do? So he was happy, the old boy. Well, you'd be getting it at a good price, Dave, where you are. You lucky boy. Yes, you're very lucky, mate. Yeah, exactly. You know, I get out in the sun. I really enjoy the sun. You probably noticed how red I am, but I don't care. I haven't been doing niacin recently because I've been doing that experiment. I'm on the second month this month, and then after that, I said I wasn't going to do the 3 months, but I have to do the 3 months because I need to basically prove to myself the importance of certain ratios of certain fat soluble vitamins. And once I've done that, then I'll do a video about it. So for the first time, I did get some skin that peeled off and stuff like that. So I got certain things. I know I'm getting sort of information on the thresholds that I can cope to tolerate without a certain level of these fat soluble vitamins. So it's going to be interesting how it all plays out. So yes. Well, you do it once, you know that you get the information from an N of 1, and then basically you move on, don't you? Anyway, Trubion. Yes, exactly. Yes. Yes, correct. Milk and niacin. Yes, exactly. It was you, Alex, I know. And thank you for that wonderful advice. Tool. Hang on. Current alcoholic here. There's always one in the house, isn't there? Yes. How are you, Nathan? Can I just take taurine to protect me? Well, you need to do a few things. You basically need choline, at least a gram of choline. That will export fat out of the liver, because you will deplete as a methyl group because you've got the the methylation pathways, your B12, folate, to a lesser extent B6, and you've got riboflavin, which has a sort of a regulatory effect of different levels depending on the genetics on this pathway. So you can enhance the enzymatic pathway or not. So that's that pathway. Then you've got the choline betaine pathway. So you've got 2-methyl type for methylation. Now, there are other genes also that play a role between, converting methionine into choline to folate. I don't have that, unfortunately, so I need to cover that with a diet. Others do. It's a sort of a more 5% of the population that has it. I'm just one of those poor fucks that has that. But what you do is, what happens is you need that. One, taurine is really good for fibrotic tissue. The other thing that you really need to is the B vitamins. You take a B complex and you take 2 before you go out drinking, and that will reduce unless you want to get a high, that means you want to get drunk, you don't take any B vitamins. They do impede getting drunk. So it means you can actually drink for longer. I should be telling this to you people. Fucking hell. I know what a bunch of fucking alcoholics you guys are. But it does slow down how drunk you get, because you do bleed through B vitamins. And then you take 2 with a glass with some water after when you get home, because you're dehydrated, so you don't get a headache the next day. And you replete your B vitamins, and you sort of wake up the next day sort of recovered. Yes. So from one alcoholic to another, that's my advice to you. So enjoy the odd drink. Don't overdo it, and don't do it on a regular basis. From Uncle Harry. Yes. What we talked about earlier. Yes, yeah. Germans they have really good sausages. Yep, you're very right. Get the. Yeah, I can see the grin. Is that a Norwegian thing? Get the best sausages. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Oh man, he's German sausages. Oh, move on. Hey, Fapnado, why are you involved in this sort of nod, wink, wink type of activity? Anyway, yes, Bratwurst, Oktoberfest with free flowing beer and sausages. Yes, exactly. Actually, we down in Tasmania, there's some in the German community down here, they do have a Oktoberfest thing. We do go to it, me and some friends, and we do enjoy the sausages and the beers. They have all German beers. They get them in, even the ones that they don't have. They have some craft ones imported. So, yeah, really bloody nice. I do enjoy that once a year, even down here. So we're not too far. We're not completely off the reservation of civilization, completely out there in no man's land. We do still connect back to the real world and able to access some of these things and have some of these events. So yes, unlike those New Zealanders. Is that right, Richard? Bart's not here for me to basically if he was here, I'd have somebody to stir. Bart stirs very easily if you really know how to press the right buttons. Oh, I do. Paradise. Yes. Golden Flow. Yes. Are you still thinking of doing a video on endometriosis? My daughter suffers terribly. She's 21. We're trying acupuncture now and stuff like that. Yeah. It's on my list of things to do. I just can't remember which month of this year it's supposed to be done in that regard. So I can't tell you exactly the month that I'm actually aiming to do it. But I can tell you one easy thing. If she's on a species appropriate diet, most people reverse their endometriosis on a species appropriate diet. Acupuncture is not going to do much for you. It may give you a bit of relief. That's about it. But at the end of the day, it is basically due to high insulin levels. and and sort of hormonal issues. That's another thing where boron can play a role in normalizing hormones. Remember so is it 12, 9, 6, and then 3. So that's your weeks of the month, and then you stay at 3 for a couple of months, and at least 3 months, and that sort of normalizes things. That helps as well. But you got to be off the kibble. You can't be taking kibble and hoping for the best. Doesn't work that way, unfortunately. And at 21, it's really hard to convince young people that they need to get off the kibble. So it's a hard thing, because you can take all the nutraceuticals and this and that and whatever else, but fundamentally, the diet plays a bigger role. You can throw all sorts of pharmaceuticals and herbs and spices and acupuncture, but at the end of the day, these hormonal things and all that, and dysregulation and stuff like that, is really, you need to get dietary. You look at the tribal populations, things like alopecia, things like, endometriosis, all these things were more or less non-existent. These are modern food diseases, and people affected differently because epigenetically different genes are triggered or affected and vary, and there are different vulnerabilities and susceptibilities at the genetic level between different people, but their causal is common. That is why you look at all these diseases of civilization. Insulin is at the heart of it. Too much glucose, all these sort of things. It's hard to convince young people. Good luck. But I do want to do something on it, but I can't remember which month. But at the end of the day, one element of that is also the diet. So if she's not prepared to change the diet, yes, you can try. Good luck. Couldn't reduce, saying flashes means milk interferes with or even stops absorption. Oh, I'm still getting the benefits of it, I think. I don't think, I think it basically dissipates it. It has more like a dissipating effect. When you combine milk, food, and all that, it has like a dissipating effect. I think it has to do more with the actual calcium that probably is maybe having the effect, but I'm not sure. I haven't been able to find any real good research why it does it. Well, nobody's researched it. So, now there may be, like those obscure research papers that some people do. So there may be something out there. I can't say that there isn't just because I haven't found something, but I haven't come across anything to really know about that, Sam. So, I don't think it's that, because there is in milk, and people that are like on a vegetarian diet that consume a lot of milk, or the Maasai that consume a lot of milk, have very good niacin status. So if it was actually causing absorption issues, they would have much lower, because they consume up to 4.5 liters on average. So they don't have any micronutrient deficiencies. So there is no interference or blockage. There's some other mechanism, but I don't know what it is that affects. Maybe it dilutes something. Maybe the extra calcium has an effect on niacin, the actual flushing component. Who knows? Don't know. But the reality is it doesn't affect absorption. It doesn't affect any of that sort of stuff. So you don't have to worry about that, because the Maasai would then have deficiencies, which they don't. So, and they consume shitloads more milk than we do. So all I can say is there's probably some mechanism which is unknown because we haven't researched it. So don't worry about that part. I just am thankful. You got to think these logical through. You look at these populations and say, well, they're having normal status, so we can't make any of these assumptions. So all these assumptions are zeros. So when you've got a hypothesis and then you find a population that is a different thing, that is a paradox. There is no paradoxes in science. Immediately, that's a zero. Your hypothesis just been debunked. And so you go through all these things, and then it's something else which we haven't identified. So, yes, that's how science works. So awesome, Harry. We'll look forward. Yep, the one that I was talking about earlier. Yep. Where was I? Are they sexual in nature? Seed man? Being a seed man. Yeah, mate, I was going to go down there. You should know that. You know, it's all in the name, isn't it? Vivid dreams. Don't know. I've had vivid dreams both in a carnivore state, in a low carb diet, and in other dietary states. So I don't know. What else are you consuming with a carnivore diet? Dinner is medium rare. Whole rump cap with a couple of slices of halloumi. I'm still laughing about the other one the seed man said. Yeah, sounds fantastic. Never tried halloumi. You should, Richard. You don't know what you're missing. It's beautiful. Wonderful. Get the best halloumi, even though I know some of the Greeks are going to hate me because we have our own halloumi, Greek halloumi. The Cypriot halloumi is much nicer. It's the best, especially if you get the traditional type. Oh, God, I'd kill people for it. Yes. Good morning, Fluffy Rainbow. Good to see you here. And Harry, is taurine beneficial for current alcoholics, not just past ones? Yes, it is. God, what, Nathan? Don't tell the people. Yes. How is taurine so wonderful for the kidneys? Did I hear fibrosis? Yes, it breaks down fibrotic tissue. That's what it is. It does a lot of things, but that's one of the things that it does. It clears out. It cleared out my heart. When I did last year, my heart scan, and I had no fibrotic tissue in. It breaks down amyloid. Again, this is fibrotic proteins in the brain. It's just one of those things. It's one of the things. There are many things. I've covered a couple of things, and there's more to cover. I'm going to be making videos on taurine for a long time. There's so many fucking things that it does. I don't want to give everything away. So there's a lot of things, but that's one of the things. It's fantastic. It's probably a reason why we get more senescent cells and more fucked up proteins in our body as we age because of taurine levels declining, the biosynthesis from the body, and people don't eat enough meat to get enough taurine. So taurine is really important if you want to maintain good tissue into old age. So get it in you. And most people, around 3 grams is more at the max is all you need. It's only when you've got a lot of issues you go up to 6. And if you're going up to 6, you've got to go very slowly. Pace yourself like 1 gram, 2 grams, 3 grams over a week, and then the next week go a bit higher and all that. If you're on blood, this is not medical advice. Let me make it quite clear. If you're on blood pressure medication, you need to see a physician as you're progressing every week to take measurements and adjust your medication. Very important, because it does lower blood pressure as well. I don't want people passing out. So, potentially if you go up to 6 grams, you may even eliminate the blood pressure medication if you're on it. Increased dopamine is one reason why vivid dreams. See, man. Yes, exactly. Yes. What is he spiking his food with to get those dopamine kicks? I wonder. Yes. You're welcome. Low carb, not too strong alcohol. Current red wine exists. Yes. Had a bit of red wine. What was it? A couple of weeks ago. even the last couple of times that I have had alcohol, which has sort of been like a week to week sort of things, it's been gin and vodka. So yes, just happens to be that way. Exactly, it doesn't. So your kidney filtration, the nephrons, those, the sieve that sieves all the stuff through, proteins can't get through there. Okay? They get bypassed and out. The only stuff that can get through there is minerals, micronutrients, waste, sugar. This is why diabetics have bad kidneys. Sugar goes through those nephrons, that sieve, and basically glycates the shit out of those proteins. You get it? Why all these tribal people that are on a high sugar diet now, they used to eat shitloads of meat. Now they're eating that. And what happens? They have kidney disease. They're on dialysis. Aborigines here in Australia have the highest level of dialysis usage. Yeah, that tells you everything, because they've got no historical high consumption of sugar. So their ability to deal with that level is much reduced. So that's the problem, And as I showed in that experiment, even rats that are omnivores, all mammals can handle shitloads of protein. Cows in their fourth chamber, where they acidify and break down and absorb all those protozoa, all the little organisms, and that's massive amount of protein, massive amount. How do they cope? They cope like any other animal. We can cope with a lot of protein. And if you deliberately go up to 70%, like that experiment showed on the rats, for 30 years equivalent in human life, okay? 70% protein continuously. All that happened is the kidneys got larger so they could handle it. That's all. But these motherfuckers were lean as and perfectly no visceral fat. They were so healthy, it was unbelievable. And it was a clean thing. It was not tainted like the modern, where they give them the modern chow. They were giving them real food back in 1926. And then they ripped them apart and looked internally what was happening. There was no fatty deposits. All organs were clean. They had no white spots, which is fatty droplets. So, yes, you can do the experiment any time in history and you'll come up with the same results, because protein is what all our body's made of. Our bones, our muscles, everything's made of protein and fats and cholesterol. And if you don't have enough of it, you will become more senescent, you will degrade, you will have less reparative capacity. So don't listen to the crackpots out there. That's what has led us astray. Yes. Eat your meat, eat your fatty meat, and enjoy life. Hey, you know what? I'm going back to work. I'm taking 5 days. I'm going back on Thursday. And I actually, the week before, I actually had 2.5 days off. I had so much fucking flex. They're all flex, not annual leave or anything like that. I had so much bloody flex time. And they're going to give us the option. I think it starts at the end of this month or close to the middle of this month or whatever, where we get an option where we can do an additional hour a day if we want to. So we can even build more flex. Fuck, I'll be taking multiple days because I work multiple hours. So I prefer, just working longer hours, taking a day off here and there, or multiple days. Like I had 2 days in a day, a public holiday, and then another day. Went on Thursday, left at midday on Friday. Yeah. Some of the guys at work there, how the fuck does he do it? Shouldn't say that too loud. Get out. They'll know how I work the system. I know, but doctors don't seem to. Yes, they have no fucking idea. They only know how to push meds and cut you open and stitch you up, which is a good thing. That at least they know that. That's a useful actual skill. Ari is still planning a video about diet, neurological issues. Yeah, that's coming. That's with the B vitamins and all that sort of other stuff and whatever. Yeah, working on that one. There's a couple of things. Initially I thought about doing one long, and then I realized it's going to be 4 to 5 hours. And I'm going, I was sort of, and then I realized I'm gonna have to break it down. It's like the taurine one. I have to do all these small taurine ones because there's so much shit to cover. It's just too much. So I realized that I had to basically so what I do is I sort of collate all the information together, throw it into a folder, and then I go, okay, I have to look at this folder at some stage. And that's what happens. And I can sometimes procrastinate because I've got a whole lot of other shit that I have to deal with. Then eventually I will get back to the folder, and then I'll start looking at it and then working out and doing subfolders and saying, okay, that's going to be one video, that's going to be another video and all that. And I work out the best, what the studies and which video they're going to be part of and all that. So I still haven't done that, so yes. And then read through them at least once so I can sort of, read them with a bit more finesse, which sometimes I don't bother. I've read them like ages ago, then I read them again, and I don't actually reread them so I can actually be much more prepared. It's just I'm lazy. I've done it. Well, probably not lazy, but it's the time constraint. I go, oh, fuck it, I'll just read it. And if I basically make a few grammatical errors here and there, fuck it. That's life. And if people don't appreciate the difficulty of trying to put all this together, run have a day job, have your own life and all these other things, well, they're asking too much. I'm not a full-time YouTuber. But at least my information is much more valid, based on a foundation of good science and not garbage. So that's what you guys come here for. You don't come here for, some smooth geezer trying to sell you a product. You come here to try and get some information, to try and improve your health of your family, yourself, and whatever. So that's my gig, and it's pretty much take it or leave it, because I'm a human as well. I've got my own issues to deal with, family-wise and other things and responsibilities. So, there's always some level of constraint, how much I can do and when. And that's why sometimes when I get a free period of time, you see me shoot out quite a few little videos, and then I've got no free time and I may not do anything for a whole week or two. It's just the way it happens. Shit happens. If you've got other responsibilities, it happens. Dad lost his twin brother. This happens, that happens, or whatever. Mira lost her grandmother. All these things sort of happen. You basically, your focus is going to be elsewhere. You're not going to be focused on YouTube. That's the last thing I'm going to be focused on. Family comes first when these things happen. So it's just the way it is, Dave. You should know that. Anyway. I'm being tongue-in-cheek. Oh, that's okay. So do I in many cases. Removing meat probably caps your salt too. So you're really great advice for impaired kidneys. Yes, salt is great. Remember, your kidneys will use 70+% of ATP to reabsorb uric acid and sodium. So basically, if you consume more sodium, what are you going to do? You're going to take the pressure off, aren't you? You're going to truly take the pressure off your kidneys. And that's what I say to people. Why aren't you using salt? Because everybody fucking fears it, even though we used to douse everything 10 times with more salt you could poke a stick at. Any people that have to worry about salt is basically the people that have got high insulin because they're eating shit, kibble, and pushing up their insulin and water retention. And that's when it becomes a problem, because you dysregulate the way electrolytes are managed by the kidneys. So unfortunately, yes. Cannabis and alcohol delay the dreams. Most get. Okay, thanks for the info. I'll give those. I'll give the first one a miss. I don't mind the second one. On the occasion, not every time. I haven't had any alcohol since summer. Okay. I did. Okay, so you did took vitamin and trimethylglycine beforehand, and was the one with my head still on his shoulder, making scene calls in the end. Exactly. See? So you were still sober. See, I told you. Just take the B vitamin after. I'm just kidding. You go out and enjoy the night however you like. The Taurine Iliad, it's fucking long. If I was to basically, I actually did a rough calculation. A mate of mine said, if you were to cover everything about taurine, how long would it take in terms of video hours? I couldn't work it out, and I did a rough estimate, and I came up with something like 170 odd hours. And that is really tightly constrained, not me waffling and me sort of, being a bit, entertaining. No entertainment, just pure sitting there. That I've only skimmed the surface. You guys I've just skimmed the surface on these things. There's so much things. I've got so many, I've got gigabytes. I mean, I've got folders that are so big and so down and all that. I sometimes lose track of where things are. That's how much information. You haven't seen anything yet in terms of the amount of information that I've got. Yes, a true Iliad, Scotty. Yes. Yes, Homo would have been very proud of me. Oops, I lost my spot. Oh, thanks, StreamYard. Thank you for being such a piece of shit software. Where am I? Here I am. Yes. Look, I don't know enough about cannabis, to be honest. So I couldn't really. I've never researched it. So I will not comment. Okay, so is Red Bull more good than bad? The problem is it's got too much caffeine, and some people are not like fast metabolizers of caffeine, so it can be problematic. Get it in another source. Do not get it in these energy drinks and all that, because that's there's too many problems with them for a whole lot of other reasons, and nothing to do with the taurine. Yes, it's great. That's the great thing about taurine. Yes, Zombie Mukbang. How are you? It's good to see you here from the sunny state of Queensland. Yes, exactly. It is very much eat your fatty meat and enjoy life. Exactly. We should get Bart to create. Actually, that's the sort of T-shirt that Bart K should create. We should tell him that. Yes. Send him an email, Dave, and tell him to. I don't care if he copyrights. I gift it to the world. Is there a difference between plant protein and animal proteins? Definitely yes. What's the difference? Plant protein is not really complete with essential. There's shitloads of things that it's not. One, it's definitely not complete in a number of ways. So combining different plants doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get a proper profile. So that's one factor, so you're not going to get the exact sort of composition that the body would require. So that's one aspect, but that's not that's what people, they sit at, because most vegans will turn around and say, oh, you could combine this and combine that and combine that. That's not the issue. There's a number of things. Bioavailability is one thing. So it is much poorer in a bioavailability. The other factor is also what is called protein utilization. That means not the protein you absorb in, but once you absorb it in, how does your body utilize it? Very important. Give you an example. The highest utilization is with Eggs, 47% of egg protein is utilized. Meats, that includes both fish and ruminants, much lower, 32%. And, when you're looking at dairy and a whole lot of other things, it's about, 17 odd in terms of utilization. That means rapid utilization. Obviously, you can have an amino pool that, you will excrete out of the kidneys, you'll excrete out of the feces, and, you may end up utilizing some of that. You may, but basically, it's sort of a mixed bag. This is the reason why whey supplements and pea protein supplements and all that, they're very low in bioavailability. Like whey, anything that's dairy and anything that's egg based is like 100% in terms of bioavailability. Even the pea proteins, the soy isolates and all that, they're about 60 odd. So of that 60% you're only getting 17% utilization by the muscles directly. And out of the 100% you're only getting about the same similar levels from that. And that's why protein supplements are so poorly utilized. A lot of it can be turned into sugar, especially if you're combining a lot of carbohydrates. And that's why you get these bodybuilders that have got muscles, but at the same time, they've also got that pudgy, fatty stomach, the muscular fat, where the traditional bodybuilders that have consumed, some level of dairy combined with a lot of eggs or steaks and stuff like that, they used to get these lean, bloody bodies, very muscular, lean bodies. So, look at the golden era. Look at these old bodybuilders. The proof is in the pudding, as they say. So that's what I look. The rest is just a big wank by different people pushing a barrow, pushing a product and all that. So, yes, that's why eggs are fantastic. The greatest thing for your muscles. Fantastic stuff. But you need to combine with egg with basically meats, because you need some of the other nutrients that eggs are slightly reduced in. They don't have as much, unless you do like that geezer old guy that consumed 25 eggs a day, which is very hard for most people. So keep that in mind. But that's what the literature shows us quite clearly. And I've actually covered some of that sort of stuff in other live streams, so I'm not going to cover it now. But there is a plan to basically do a proper and show the utilization, protein utilization, and actually show the graph, how the different things utilize in the body, the different bioavailabilities and stuff like that. I just haven't done it yet, So I do these different protein studies to show that people don't need to worry about protein, because that's the biggest concern. People are more worried about that. But there's plenty of studies out there showing that the bioavailability, the benchmark, where the 100% comes from basically eggs. So when you ask a researcher, where does this bioavailability of 100% come from? They say, we use eggs as the 100% and dairy. Then everything else comes below that. Like when you're talking about beef, it's about 92%, where the plant proteins in terms of bioavailability are down to about 60 odd or less. So basically you're getting out of the 60%, you're only getting 17% of the 60, which is fuck all. Where you're getting nearly from 100%, which is 92%, you're getting 32%, which is probably about 30%. Not bad, way higher than the other stuff. So even though dairy is at 100%, you're only getting 17. So beef is still superior in terms of the utilization factor, the rapid utilization from the muscles. The only thing that actually trumps everything is eggs, both in bioavailability and as basically utilization. That's why the old bodybuilders consume so many fucking eggs. They knew something, you know, and this is even before the science, but they knew anecdotally that this was superior in terms of both bioavailability and utilization. So, let alone eggs have got choline, shitloads. They've got phospholipids, great for the brain, great for a whole lot of tissues. Acetylcholine, neurotransmitters, blah, blah, blah. All the fat-soluble vitamins, the MK4, your retinol, all these sort of different things, plus a whole lot of other nutrients. So they're actually an animal to be in waiting, so to speak, or that has the potential of emerging. So it's got a lot of elements that can make an animal, and that is why it's so bioavailable and so has such higher levels of utilization. That's important. So I would say that would be your best source, but you do need some of the others for some of the other micronutrients. Anyway, move on. I'm falling behind. Can we delay deep sleep cycle by 4 or 5 sleep tracking? Show the patterns with cannabis use. I've got no idea when it comes to cannabis. Can't tell you. Fucking druggies. Smooth geezer. Is that me? Up syndrome. How did you and Bart meet each other? I just basically used to put comments, very scientifically based comments on his YouTube channel, on his videos, and he basically approached me. So he actually put a comment and said, email me. I go, oh, what does he want me to? And I emailed him to, I was wondering, what the hell does he want? Does he want to give me something or send me something, in regards to my last comment? So I was wondering, did I fuck up what I said? And he basically said, yeah, I've noticed you putting a number of different comments on my website. He showed an interest. He basically said, your stuff is sound, your scientific approach and principle and ethics, the way I do and explain things and the way I don't basically speculate or make up shit or anything like that, but I stick to the empirical evidence that's out there. And he was impressed that, it was like, I've been trying to teach all these other people, and then you come across and you basically, it's like, that's exactly the result I wanted. And so he basically approached me. I didn't approach him. And then we had a bit of a chat on Skype. We Skyped. We had a bit of a chat a couple of times and talked about different things and stuff like that. And he said, you've got shitloads of information. You should be on YouTube. And I said, look, I've got too many other commitments. I'm not interested in actually starting up a channel. He said, well, why don't you come on at least to my channel and actually just chat with me about different things? And that's when I did my first, second, and then third long chats, which he broke up into different parts and put on his site. And then basically he nagged me for a couple of months on setting up a channel each time. He said, you got to set up a channel. I'll help you. I'll tell you what software. I'll show you exactly how to do it. So he really did help me a lot. I don't think if nobody else would have basically persisted as long as Bart did. So if you've got anyone to thank, it's Bart K. Not me for being here. You only have to thank me for the information that I provide you, but it's really Bart K that basically dragged me kicking and screaming onto YouTubia. Yes. So, yes. So it was about, what was it now? It's 2 years ago, is it? or a bit longer than that. I think it's a bit longer than that. No, it's a bit longer. It's about 2.5 or 3 years, so it's been a while. Where does time fly when you're having fun, So, yeah, it's been quite an interesting relationship, and we got on quite well. I sometimes Skype with him and have a bit of a chat, and he's sitting on the other side talking shit to me, and I'm talking shit to him, and we talk about our relationships and talk about our families and all sorts of things. So, it's not all science. It's just, so we've actually developed a really good friendship and a relationship. So he's a nice fellow. I really like him and respect him. He's down to earth. He's a true empiricist scientist. He loves, sticking. He's a strickler and a perfectionist when it comes to science. And he knows I respect that, and very much I try to adhere to that empirical principle. And I rail against, rationalist nonsense and, where it's, mathematically or model creating reality, which is just simulating reality, which is not real observational or experimental truth. And he knows I rail against this. He knows my hostility to string theory, M theory, like in the physics area. And even recently, it was on dark matter. There was a study that actually just blew the top of the whole dark matter bullshit. And it has to do with the concentrations of different stellar bodies. So if you've got a galaxy that's more on its own, it behaves slightly different than when there's a whole lot because of the gravitational interactions. And this new study is really blowing away that whole nonsense that we require dark matter. So it's really good stuff. And it's just recently, it just came out in November. So I sent him a copy of that. So I suspect he's enjoying that as well. But, we think very much the same. We believe you have to measure things. They have to be replicatable. You have to basically have a foundation on what you stand on. You just can't speculate and make shit up or basically massage data statistically and say, this is the truth. It's not. Because when you have paradoxes in science, it means you fucked up somewhere. Admit it. The problem is we have this rationalist approach where we think because we're not rational humans. Humans are not rational. That's the reality. We are not machines. We don't think machines. We feel. We things. We need to really control ourselves and constrain ourselves and remind ourselves that we need to basically temper our speculative nature and basically glorifying mathematical models that we create. That's not reality. You need to observe it. You need to measure it. Only then do you know what it is or how it behaves. So, yeah, it's been a long journey, but we are kindred spirits in the way we view science. I'm looking to always negate my sort of assumptions. And you see me sometimes, I'll do new research, I'll go down rabbit holes, I'll find something and I'll go, oh shit, I just realized I fucked up. And I tell you guys, as you know, on a number of occasions, but you got to do that. I fucked up on the CD38. I fucked up on the boron about, when you have slightly above 3 milligrams, you can notice these magnesium or potassium sort of deficiencies. Now, it's not causing it, but it accentuates those things. But I wasn't aware of that. I should have gone down that rabbit hole to warn people, So it's all these things. So we're not perfect, but at least we try to learn and understand how things work in the real way, in actual living systems. Not basically some make-believe speculation where it sounds good and I can sell it or sell a product or a drug. We don't operate like that. We're seekers of truth. And if it can't be measured, it can't be observed, and it can't be basically replicatable, it's made up as far as I'm concerned. You can't statistically massage reality. And that's why, we are kindred. We've really just sort of, because we think alike in this respect, in terms of the scientific principle. We don't accept dodgy, research. We rail against it, and that's why, But going back to your initial, it's sort of really me putting comments on his YouTube channel videos and him noticing me and approaching me. So that's how it all happened initially. Anyway, evening zombie. Sorry to notice your arrival. What are you doing, Richard? Oh, you're on the booze, mate. You're welcome. Not a problem, Dave. You enjoy the rest of your day. Go and enjoy a bit of sun. YouTubia will be here when you get back. Believe me, never goes away. Yes, morning, Nursey. Morning, Nursey. Good to see you here. Scientific bromance. Nice one. I should actually tell that. Just I'll say, it's a better bromance than the one you have with sheep. You know, I'll pick on him. You know, you got to pick on him now. That's what you do with friends. You pick on them. Exactly. But 36, exactly. Bodybuilder Vince Girondo believed his 36 egg a day diet protocol was as good as taking a steroid, and he was fucking right. So much cholesterol, so much high bioavailable, bioactive proteins going into those muscles. The guy was a god, he loved eggs. I mean, that old geezer, 88, outlived all his parents, ate shitloads of eggs, 25 eggs a day on average, was fit as a fiddle, strong at 88. I mean, for fuck's sake. Eggs are great. And here we've got crackpots telling you, if you take one egg a day or one egg a week, some of them are saying, you will die. You'll kill yourself. I mean, so you know why I rail against that sort of shit. Those people need basically somebody to take a baseball bat to them. No, I do not mean it literally. Just to cover myself libelous wise. Yes. Yeah, they were. Look, they were better quality eggs. That's true as well. But look, even the other ones, the caged ones and all that, there's minimal difference. There's not big. It's not that big. Even though I do buy pastured for the slightly more omega-3s one, but that's not the important thing. I can get that from fish. But it's more the fat. Some of the fat soluble vitamins, the increase and all that. That's the reason. Otherwise, I have to consume a bit more. And it sort of means that I'm getting too much protein. I'm getting too satiated, and I'm not, I'm trying to get more micronutrients in because I need them because of some of my pathways. So it's a different balancing act that I have to do for myself. Kind of embarrassed to ask, but what is your profession or main interest? I'm in cartography, or as the field is called, we're called spatial officers, information officers, which is spatial science, the field now. But sort of cartography, surveying, and geodetics sort of all come together in what is called now spatial science, which has to do with remote sensing with satellites. It's driven by software. It's part of the engineering faculty, and it's sort of driven by software, AI. We've actually got an AI that we use for data analysis, data analytics. So it's sort of, it's a very different animal compared to when I first started in mapping years ago. So yeah, that's the sort of profession that I'm in. I'm towards the tail end of my professional life. I've only got 6 more years to go. So these younger whippersnippers that I'm actually mentoring and training up will be the ones, the future. So they will basically really embrace the AIs and a whole lot of automation and all sorts of systems and whatever else and stuff like that. So, eventually, when you get, because you get a lot of like imagery and stuff like that from satellites, and you need the AIs, they can do a better job in sort of combining it, but you have to teach them. So there's a lot of still a number of years we have to teach the AIs to do a lot of the stuff so they can actually do the analysis. And then you end up, I think cartographers in the future are going to end up becoming like managers of information, spatial information. And data analytics and stuff like that. So it's changing in that direction. So basically, you're either a spatial information officer or you're basically a spatial scientist if you're an academic. And that's the sort of what it's called now. So, but traditionally it's cartography, stuff like that, surveying, blah, 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 and all that sort of shit. Anyway, move on. I hope that answered your question, Nathan. So I do come from a very much an analytical, engineers are very much like other scientists. We're very analytical, data-driven, and we are very, and especially people come from that sort of background, very much about precision, because our data has to be precise. Precision is very important in these sort of things, measuring things in a precise way, even with surveys. So things need to close properly, need to be measured properly. So that's why I have that mindset. And that's when I see something it's not really, it's sort of aggravating. It goes against my grain, my mental thinking, because I see it and I go, this guy's bullshitting. Immediately I can see it, I can spot it, and it infuriates me. So that's why when I can look at science and I don't get bullshitted like a lot of other people do. So it does help having that sort of background. But anyone can become a citizen scientist if they basically so desire. It's not between the realm of possibilities for anyone. Often just throw the whites away. Just cook some yolks when I'm feeling lazy. Yolk scrambled eggs with lots of butter. Super rich. That's true. But I do, even though there is more deuterium in the whites, I do tend to throw a few of the whites away in winter, but in summer, because I'm out in the sun depleting, I don't care. I combine them to get that extra protein, especially if you're training. It's good for muscle building. So I think there's a rational basis of many of our feelings if we aren't mentally fucked up by bad diet, at least. I'm not rational thinking or rational thought is a different thing between the rational philosophy of rationalism. Rationalism as a philosophy basically is talking about that we can actually rationalize reality using mathematics and statistical models. That's very dangerous, because what tends to happen when you do that, whether it's in economics or whatever, you end up creating models that don't really reflect reality, but just a part or an aspect of reality. That can lead you down the wrong rabbit holes and into pseudoscience very easily. Or pseudo-economics very easily. And that is really the danger of that sort of stuff. So that's come back to that. Sorry, zombie. Yeah, so that's the reason why, there is two aspects of the word in that regard. Egg phobia. That's a nice one. Yeah, there's quite a few people out there that have got an egg phobia. It's due to the cholesterol phobia. Cotton oil. Any good for raising vitamin D levels? Need it in the UK. Oh, look, it's good. Magnesium also plays a bit of a role with vitamin D, but that's a bit on the speculative side because it hasn't been properly measured, and it's never like a purely fasted person and then regulating magnesium levels deliberately making deficient, then seeing how vitamin D, nobody's ever done that study. They probably won't do it for ethical reasons, so we don't really know, but that's just a side thing that I threw in there for what it's worth. Yeah, cod liver oil is a good source of vitamin D. So a lot of other, like butters and stuff like that. Even in winter, you can still get some. Yeah, you're right. DJ Projectus, yes, Ivor definitely cuts through the bullshit. I really like Ivor Cummings. And yeah, look, you can still get a bit if you can get out in the sun, even in winter. It's not a lot, but it's better than nothing. So yeah. But if you're eating fish, fatty fish type fish and all that, you'll get some vitamin D there. You'll also get from if you've got access to animals that graze in mountainous areas, the grass that they consume will give that animal higher levels of vitamin D and also higher levels of omega-3s. That really hardy, absolutely really green type, dark green type vegetation that some of the lambs, like up in Iceland, people that are inland have similar vitamin D levels to those on the coast, even though the coastline people, the inland people are only eating these sheep because of this sort of these plants that they're actually the sheep are consuming. So, and they primarily use the mutton, which is the older sheep. And so mutton will have more concentration of those nutrients. So if you want, a goat or a lamb as a mutton, an older lamb, which is called a mutton, from, a sort of an area which is of that sort, especially in the highland area where it's going to be more hardy, rugged, mountainous type, you're going to get much better nutrient profile to support your vitamin D as well. So there's a couple of different sources you can use, but cod liver oil is definitely one of the best in that regard. Just get the Rosetta one, which is the best brand because they use the traditional method of extraction, and you're not going to get a whole lot of fucking aldehydes and other shit. Thanks, mate. Yep, not a problem. You're welcome. It did answer my question, and I've recently come to have some more appreciation for engineers. Dare I ask? Yeah, look, yeah, we're a different breed in the way. We're very down to earth, practical, and we don't sit around speculating. And yes, it's a different approach. G'day, Mandy. It's good to see you here. So, yep, he's great. He definitely is. Yep, that's why I subscribe to him. He's one of my key channels that I do watch when I get a chance. That is not always, but I do love a lot of the stuff that he does. He goes for the science. He shows quite clear why what they are arguing is wrong because it doesn't match the data, the real raw data when you look at it, which a lot of them actually ignore, especially the Imperial College, that bunch of mafia academics, those people are criminals. They should be tried for destroying whole economies around the world. Or at least at a minimum apologize for the disgraceful bullshit that they put out there and con the world into massive lockdowns. Best thing you can do is get your family on vitamin D supplementation as a protective, get their levels up. And if you got access to sun, get out in the sun, enjoy the damn sun. Oh, that's right. Pub holiday tomorrow that Australians don't have. Oh, Harry. Jealous. You guys probably have one public holiday the whole week, the sort of the year, which is the Waitangi Treaty. That's it. You got nothing else. So, snipe. Hey, that's a new angle as well. I actually told that to Bart in his live stream this morning, and I said, "Do you realise you got the potential of using the Waitangi Treaty because you can actually claim that if you can say I'm part Indigenous and I'm claiming the right to basically as a Maori to basically have the right to decide, whether I take something or do something which is against my belief or my cultural belief. We never did this in the past." So I think he's going to try to use that angle to get away from being jabbed by something that hasn't been tested appropriately. I'm not anti-vaxxer, as I said. I've done a lot of vaccinations and I'm not against it. I just say that in terms of something that hasn't been tested properly. Now, there are going to be people in difficulty, and even I may be forced by my work environment to take it. Yes. So I hope they're kind and use gloves. But yeah, to be serious, I am going to do a bit of a video and actually explain which ones I think are much safer and less problematic. Definitely the mRNAs are not the ones you want to be taking, I can tell you. I've explained the whole reasons behind about autoimmunity and all sorts of issues, and also cytokine storm potential in people with low vitamin D and who have comorbidities and whatever else, because it replicates and it behaves a bit like the virus. It's deactivated, but it still creates this sort of hyperimmune response, which that's why they get that 90 whatever percent. It's like the virus. So, and the thing that kills you is the hot cytokine storm. So that's the risk. So I don't think that's appropriate for older people, unless you want to kill them off. G'day, Bert. Good to see you, mate. Hi, Harry. Look at carbon isotope studies. It led me to answers storing bone marrow, like Kansas soup for the calories, nutrition, benefits, anti-inflammatory, hair, skin, youth, guts, lining. We basically use these analysis of carbon isotopes and nitrogen isotope analysis more in terms of being able to demonstrate what we ate, what we consumed at a certain point in time, because of the different isotopes that these foods have. It doesn't really tell you much beyond that. It's not going to tell you whether there's a benefit or whatever. Now, when you have the certain foods, then you can actually derive and say, okay, these people have consumed these, so they would have got these sort of benefits from that nutrition. But our key utilization, especially in the carnivore community, me and Bart in particular, is basically I discussed this from some of the earlier chats that I had with Bart about the isotope analysis. I'd come across the Max Planck Institute in Leipzig, Germany. You can actually go to their website. They've got an extensive amount of bones, of collagen isotope analysis, going between different hominins and providing extensive amount of information about what really we ate based on that analysis. I have done one on the ancient Greeks. It's on my good channel, and that shows that primarily the ancient Greeks consumed a diet very high in ruminants and a bit of coastal fish, and that was about it primarily. So it just blows up that whole fucking nonsense that people put out there. But that's how we use these sort of things. In other areas, we use things like what do I want to say? It's you use that to sort of analyze different populations. I've got things, but I've deprioritized those on the isotope analysis of different populations. I've got some stuff that I read up about the Persians and stuff like that, the Medians and many others, the Babylonians and different others, and in different times as they transition between different diets and agriculture coming up and all that, and showing the shifts of the isotopes and all that. And also the consequences of those changing isotopes, how that affects health, obviously, because it relates to the foods that they're consuming. So yes, in that way, yes, it does relate to the foods. But I haven't done those videos yet. I've sort of deprioritized it because there's a lot of other stuff people want, which is a bigger priority. But they will be done at some point, probably later in the year, because I do want to go back to that. I love archaeology. When I go back to doing some of that archaeological isotope analysis, sort of combining biology with archaeology and really coming up with some really good pearls of wisdom and about, what's happened in the past with humanity and transition and all that. So, yes, you've got to look forward to that stuff. It's good stuff. I think you will enjoy it. Yes, Bert is in the house. Yes, yes. Oops. Love you guys here. Thank you, Mandy. Oops, I just overshot. Thank you, StreamYard. Yep. Top man, top man. Beautiful. Yes, exactly. I was out and about as well at lunchtime, and I did get a bit of my vitamin D, definitely. I wish I was out a bit longer, but tomorrow we were having a barbecue, so I'll definitely get an opportunity to get a bit more. Harry, can the diet alone fix hypothyroidism or medication always necessary? The diet can, with some modifications in that regard. It's a lot of micronutrient deficiencies that play a big role as well. Not enough selenium, not enough iodine, and you need those two to balance out. Zinc, another important factor. Selenium also does the conversion between. It also affects how reverse T3 works. You can actually lower reverse T3, which if you're getting enough calories is not a problem. If you're not, you could waste muscles. That's another story altogether. So it's so nuanced. I am going to make a video to explain a lot of this sort of stuff. There's actually a methylation part as well. Thyroid effect is not only, there is also a methylation component to it. And that methylation component has to do with estrogen. There's so many bloody things that are intersecting. It's a very complex picture, let's put it that way. I don't know how many parts, whether it's going to be 2 or 3 parts, each probably 2 hours. So yeah, there's a horrendous amount of stuff to discuss when it comes to it. So yeah, so I still haven't worked out how I'm going to structure this series of 3-part series. I hope it's 3-part series. I don't want to, but never know. With me, it could be 4. Yes, I do tend to waffle a bit sometimes. Okay, most probably covers a few months and sweet the rest of the year. Yeah, unfortunately. It's the way it is. It's the way of the world. Yes, it has been used in cancer therapy. Yes, it has in the past, and pretty much a failed utilized. That's why they've moved it over, because it's cheaper for them. They can reuse the technology in a different area. So, why waste money when you can actually get government money to basically reutilize that technology in something different and recoup your initial investment for your shareholders at the public purse? Fantastic. Good business model. It's exactly what I would do if I was a director of that company. So I'm not basically being critical, but governments should have basically analysed some of these sort of methods a bit better and said, is this appropriate? We've noticed that there's been autoimmunity in the past. There have been a number of other issues. My Hashimoto's almost healed from 3 years of carnivore antibodies have dropped under reference range, and I've been off medication. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. What I'm trying to explain is, yes, the carnivore diet will reverse. When you're on a species-appropriate diet, you should not be having a lot of these diseases of civilization, but you can accelerate it slightly by some biohacks and stuff like that, and that's what will be in that additional stuff. Methylation is important. Choline is important as well. So there's a whole lot of things. So use un. I'm saying vax. My daughter is getting some vax next week. Good. That's good to hear. Not interested in flu and coronavax through. Yep, me neither. So, because they haven't tested them. They're still fucking testing them. They're still assessing them. So, but there is one that is very traditionally the way it is, and I don't want to give it away. You'll have to wait. The video is happening in the next couple of days, and that will be a doozy. That will cover extensively all these different things, and you'll have options, basically. Whether you take them up, that's your business. But if my work tells me I have to, then I know which option I'll be taking, and you will know in a couple of days as well. Go over the nice ingredients and heavy metals in monkey shoes. Yes. Selenide, selenium can remove a lot of that sort of stuff. Activated charcoal can play a role, but as long as your gallbladder is working properly. There is that proviso with activated charcoal. If your gallbladder isn't working as well, you're basically going to be pooping a lot of the activated charcoal. Selenide will play a better role in chelating a number of these nasties. Exactly. Great result. Exactly. Nothing like a species-appropriate diet to make a big difference. What do you think is going on with the Yomi phenomenon? What do Aboriginals say about the Yomi? No idea what phenomenon. I've never heard of it. Can't answer something that I have never heard. I'll look into it. Is it a spiritual thing? Exosome theory versus virus theory. I'm with Bart. Virus. There are viruses, mate. There are viruses. This sort of exosome. Exosomes may have viruses in them, but still viruses. So it's nonsense. There is shitloads of stuff that comes into our bodies. Definitely iodine. Yep. Exactly. Balanced out with selenium. Too much iodine without enough selenium can create imbalances and also affect the thyroid in a negative way. Germ theory, terrain theory, yes, I don't subscribe to either one. They're both reductionist nonsense. I believe that both are valid in their own way, and I will have to do a video to explain really my thinking. But as I say to the terrain people out there, why don't you go to Africa, inject yourself with Ebola, and see how you do? I bet you won't be around for too long. So, yes, but that doesn't mean I'm a supporter of the germ theory either, because I believe in receptors. So if a virus can use a receptor to get in, yes, it can be a problem. If you've got a strong immune system, healthy, with good vitamin D status and all that, you can actually reduce and your immune system can deal with it. But there is a threshold which you can't. Certain viruses can exceed that threshold, like Ebola. So terrain isn't going to work for you, and that's why I say to them, you think the terrain is 100% theory, right? Go to Africa and inject yourself with Ebola. I challenge you. I say to these crackpots, you know what? They run and hide because they got no answer for it. So, yes, the reality is that we have millions and millions of viruses inside us, and they do not affect us at all because they don't have receptors to actually get into our cells and exploit our replication machine, the replication machinery in those cells. So they just float around, and they usually infect primarily, and they scavenge energy and material off bacteria, which are much larger. and bacteria found ways to defend themselves against. And the bacteria that are successful and are able to utilize the immune system to knock them off tend to clear these ones out. And the ones that are a bit more successful and have evolved and adapted to basically circumvent some of the bacterial, immunomodulating elements, survive and stay there for much longer. But they don't have the replication methods, but they stay around in that regard. So, yes. Anyway, move on. Up your seafood consumption, nurse. Yes, nothing like beautiful seafood for for DHA and those omega-3s. Yes, because that's why I don't worry. I don't need to worry about replication. I'm not eating plants. There's no competition of omega-3s and omega-6s. I don't give a shit about that. All I'm interested in is I get a bit of fish, I get my omega-3s, I get some from the grass-fed animals and pastured eggs, and the rest basically is my body needs more omega-6s anyway. Let's not forget, omega-6s are in all the different tissues bound in there, and they are utilized. There's about a third of it stored in the adipose tissue. Remember, about 13.5%. In adipose tissue, you've got oleic acid, which is a MUFA, which is about, oh God, I said it in the morning, I forget about 32 point, what is it, 32.8? Can't remember. Who gives a shit? About a third. There's about 28%, 28 point something, but I can't remember, of palmitate, which plays an important structural role around the place, which is saturated fat. And the third one is linoleic acid. Yes, that omega-6. The problem is, where did that come from? If it came from an animal, it's good and stable. If it came from seed oil, it's high in deuterium and it's very reactive. So when you have a diet, you lose weight, fasting, or what happens? You're releasing a lot of this as free fatty acid, and that can create some level of inflammation. Yes, unfortunately. So how do you mitigate that? As we said, you take a low dose Jarrow vitamin E, a complex that basically mitigates that problem. Anyway, let's move on. Okay. So I'm repeating myself. Sound like an old man. I lost my spot. Thank you, StreamYard. Oh, hang on. What is it to say? Anyone here know how to eat what? Looks like slab pork fat. Polish shop, I think. Okay, never heard about it. Okay, interesting. I'll have to look into it. Harry, you touched with Mary, vitamin D without vitamin A could lead to pathways for cancer. Is it real concern for the average omnivore? Thanks. Look, we're talking about there has to be a number of other underlying pathology for that to happen. Okay? But there is an important requirement for the fat-soluble vitamins to basically help. I'll give you an example. Cell proliferation in the prostate. For men, Bert, you're a man, I'm a man, So there is an enzyme which controls the proliferation of cells. That means cell division and all that, and whether you get this sort of growth of the prostate or shrinkage of the prostate, because it can regulate. These enzymes, like the collagen-degrading enzymes, the matrix metalloproteinases, these sort of enzymes regulate growth, rebuilding, recycling, and all sorts of other things, and remodeling. Now, the most of the receptors required within that enzyme are vitamin D. As a cofactor to the vitamin D component of the receptors, sitting at the back part, is for retinol. So you need a bit of retinol, but you could probably get enough retinol basically just eating a steak. You don't need as much. the key one there is still vitamin D, going to be vitamin D. I'm getting some feedback. What the hell's happening? God, technology. And so basically you can get these sort of things. And sometimes if you've got too much vitamin A, you can really push down, your vitamin D levels and affect then some of these pathways. And not only in terms of cancer and proliferation, even though also retinol plays an important role in reducing cell proliferation and differentiation. But there are certain circumstances and certain types of conditions of senescence and all that can make you more vulnerable. It's, we were talking about certain conditions and certain cases that she's dealt with, but I don't think we clarified things well enough, and maybe gave the wrong impression slightly. So, we've got to be very careful, because that wasn't the focus of my discussion with her. It was more about the blue zones and all that. And so, but things do come up in a conversation, and sometimes, they are incomplete. And sometimes I've got inside knowledge and I understand what she's saying, but you guys listening are sort of getting half the story, if you know what I mean. So I do apologize in that regard, but it's just how it happens. At the time, we weren't thinking about those sort of things. Yes. But there are things that I will be doing on cancer, and going into these things in a very deep way. It's probably going to be 4 to potentially 6 video series on that, touching on a lot of different things and aspects. Anyway, had brilliant rabbit hole, endless knowledge. Oh, thank you. Appreciate it. Thoughts on adding stomach acid with meal side effects or bone swelling? Look, I would definitely use HCl to basically increase acidification, and salt, because basically at the end of the day, without salt, the chloride in particular, you're not going to get, you could basically get like a magnesium chloride, which basically means that you can get extra chloride from a magnesium plus add magnesium in. But salt will basically give you good levels of chloride to basically support those proton pumps for better acidification. So that's the cheapest option. Salt your meat and enjoy. Okay, imagine feasting on fatty megafauna, mammoth steaks for dinner. I envy Paleolithic man. Yes, they had to put up with the elements as well, don't you forget. But yes, would have been nice to actually bring some of those down, those big motherfuckers. Yes, would have been really nice. Look, I have looked at it. I remember the mammoth that they found in Russia, and they actually did take DNA, and they said they may be able to recreate mammoths by breeding them, using sort of elephants. They believe they've got a complete genome, but I'm sort of not so confident, because you may have the gene, but there's another element to it. It's the mitochondrial part. So unless they actually use the mitochondria, they just rely on the mitochondria of the elephant. Would that be sufficient? So because remember, you inherit your mitochondria, from your mother. So, you put it in an elephant. It gives it mitochondria from an elephant. Would that be sufficient to support that animal? There's too many variables. Epigenetics. What is the epigenetic profile of a mammoth? Next question. You know what I mean? There's so many I'm not saying that it's not possible. I'm saying it is extremely difficult. But, there will be people out there that will give it a try, I can tell you. So, good luck to them. Yes. Yes, according to some. Yes. Look, it would be very interesting, to say the least. Yep, it's coming. It's coming. You've touched on pork at the beginning of the video about how much pigs, fat lard, would a non-low carbing dieter get away with without engaging the Randall cycle. Actually, when it comes to pork, it has got the lowest insulinogenic effect of all meats. That means it engages insulin. That means the lowest. So your glucagon, your insulin to glucagon ratio is going to be much lower than beef. And so will your insulin levels in general. Your overall insulin levels will be much lower. So if you have like a beef steak or a pork steak, your insulin response will be much lower with the pork. So combining pork with some low glycemic carbohydrates like the Okinawans do, and they do actually consume less than 80% full, which means that they are getting slightly caloric deprivation, or they're just sort of not getting enough to engage the Randall cycle, being physically active as well. So yeah, it's really hard to say. I haven't really seen any research, Sam, to be honest, but probably pork compared to any other meat source is probably more forgiving, but how much, don't know. So that's a really hard answer, because I don't have any real science to stick to. All I know is that it has the lowest insulin effect. So when you combine it with carbohydrates, it will have a less pronounced insulin effect. How much? No idea. So, and at the same time, I know that it will go in lockstep with IGF-1. So IGF-1 will also be slightly lower, because in the beginning of eukaryotic and complex life, there was no insulin or IGF-1 alone. They were one and the same, called insulin/IGF-1. Now there's a sort of a division of labor within animals, but originally, so that's why they go in lockstep. mTOR can slightly vary based on the amino acid profile. And again here, mTOR will be less activated as well. So pork is probably more forgiving. It's probably a reason why the high consumption of pork that was in America in the 19th century, even though there was some carbohydrates in the diet, tend to be, less of an issue. And it's also they were very physically active. That's speculation on my part, but it means that they were basically always at that sub level of engaging the Randall cycle. So because of the physical activity and the type of meat that they were consuming, having less effect on those pathways. Anyway, as long as you're eating more calories, exactly. Yep. It's only when you exceed, that's true. As Bart would say, even 1 calorie. Which is like a formula type thing, statement to say. But obviously it will vary from tissue to tissue, because the different saturation of or different receptor response at those cell levels and based on signaling will have a variability within different parts of tissue. So it's a bit more complex, but in sort of the simplistic general terms, yes. Okay. I love it, abattoirs. Oh, that didn't sound right. Oops, let me refrain. Let's move on. Rumours UK won't let out information on negative outcomes of RNA vaccinations. I don't know enough, but in that regard, I don't know. I don't think most governments are giving a general, that so many people got affected or that. They're just giving general information. They're not giving specific information because they're still going through the testing and some of the studies and stuff like that. So some of that information just hasn't been collated. It's not. I don't think it's, governments don't work like that. They don't sit around basically dishing out information continuously. That's not how they work. They will collate information and at some point they will put it together in a report and it will be sent to the minister as a report, and then the minister will decide whether they release it or not. That's how governments work. So don't read in, just because the reporters want things instantly at that moment. A reporter is not a government officer. A government officer is required to collate information in a certain way, put it together, and then present it in a report, which can take quite a few months, and then it gets pushed up to a ministerial level, and then a document is created called a ministerial document, and that report will be attached as a requirement of that ministerial document, and then will end up as a report that the minister will see. Okay, after some of the agency heads tick off on it, make sure that it, that it's within those guidelines and all that. So it's a far more complex bureaucratic type process. So don't read Machiavellian or conspiratorial things just because, these things take time and there are procedural things that have to go through. That's how bureaucracies work. Believe me, I know quite a bit about it. I've had to do stuff like that in the past, believe. So, yes. Not exactly. No, Alex. You will be able to go to a pharmacy and get yours, unless you actually work for or an organisation that's actually providing it. You can basically go and get it done elsewhere and then come back and say, look, I've already had it done, and provide them a certificate. And that'll be good enough. So that's what I'm going to do anyway. He's from Norway. Oh, there he is. Yes. 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 Eggs are a better source of selenium. Eggs and liver are your best options. You can get reasonable levels, but eggs are much better, and so is liver. But definitely get some eggs into you, and yes. There's also fish, seafood, that's a certain level in that regard. Yeah. It's probably a requirement for a little short video on selenium and iodine and stuff like that, providing the different food sources. So, yes, at some point, it would be of useful to people so they know what to incorporate. I was watching War of the Worlds movie last night. Sorry, spoiler, but I love the aliens all die from our bacteria. Yeah, exactly. That is funny. Yeah, I actually enjoyed that as well. Yes. Yep, it's food for iodine and selenium. Perfect combo. That is absolutely true. That is why I have fish twice, and sometimes even it's usually twice a week. I do have fish on a more regular basis. and some of the occasionally I will have raw. I do have sometimes cooked, but I do prefer raw oysters. And mussels cooked in and making a soup out of them, and then combining eggs and making an egg soup. Oh, really nice. So yes, these hunger cravings. Fucking hell. Stop. We've got to stop talking about food, guys. Nothing like raw milk. That is nice. You can eat liver. You can eat seafood. Yes. Old Boris wants to basically get the young little children to spy on their parents. Yes. Yes. What a cockwomble he is. Lost my spot. Yeah, look, I keep the politics as much out of it. But, when it comes to, I am a person who believes in freedom, in democracy and stuff, and the rule of law. So what certain people do, like, storming different buildings or doing certain crazy things and stuff like that, you got to respect laws. There got to be some semblance of rules. Very easy to pull apart a society, very hard to put it together. You should work within, even if it's slightly dysfunctional, the political system, which it is, especially in the US. I say to Americans, both on the right and on the left, that basically have more traditional attitudes and believe in freedom, they should get together and start fighting against these politicians. Stop fighting amongst themselves. That's what they want them, divide and rule, because ultimately the plain old middle class average person out there is being screwed the same way. That's the truth. But my focus here is definitely, as Bert would say, it is based on nutrition, and I do try to keep these things to a minimum. But yes, and also it's probably safer for the channel. Let's put it that way. It's fine. You're just going to get less. You're not going to get any vitamin C. You're going to get a reduced amount, or you won't get any lactoferrin, which is good for the immune system. You will not get any. What else? It's going to be lower in both the fat soluble vitamins and the B vitamins. Unfortunately, some of the B vitamins can be really degraded badly from pasteurized. Let me just go back. I just said something stupid. It depends on the temperature of the pasteurization, how much these things get degraded. So it varies. Okay, so I think we generally say pasteurization will do all this, and I've said it in the past, and that's wrong. What I should actually say is that the pasteurization will affect at a temperature-dependent level, because that's the proper scientific way of actually saying it. So depending on the temperature of the pasteurization and the length of time of the pasteurization, they do vary between products and different companies as well. And sometimes it's easy to find that information with some companies, with others it's very hard. You can get varied micronutrient and other elements that are normally in milk that have benefits, varied levels that will actually end up coming out of it. So yeah, so that's the sort of picture that I want to give. So what benefit would you ultimately then get Well, it would only be the energy and the protein, which would be the biggest component in that regard. Now, people would worry, oh, you're going to get you hear people say, oh, the proteins are going to be denatured. And I go, and? You fucking cockwomble. When it goes into the stomach, what do you think happens to proteins? They get broken down to amino acids. The proteins get denatured. That's what stomach acid does. So it's weird what people say. They say it just shit because they've got no idea. It's only when the proteins go into your body, get incorporated into tissue, and then get affected, or, like aldehydes or reactive oxygen species or a whole lot of other things come in. G'day, Uncle Alf. Good to see you, mate. Come in and actually rip those membranes and do damage. That's when you can actually, or when you don't have enough of the cofactors and all that, you can get misfolding of proteins and stuff like that. And enzymes, don't function properly, and a whole lot of other things, or certain proteins that are playing transporter roles or whatever. That's a different thing altogether. But I don't give a shit. Something gets slightly overcooked. Not that I got to lose nutrition, but denaturing, who cares? The stomach bloody does that and breaks it down to amino acids, and then the body uses those amino acids to build new proteins. With being mRNA transcriptions from the DNA instructing it what sort of proteins to produce specifically from those building blocks. So you got to get away from this pseudo garbage about denaturing stuff. It's unimportant. It's the micronutrient deficiencies that can happen with some of these processed stuff, or the negative things that can be incorporated into those foods, like things like, emulsifiers. They really fuck your gut lining, because, what does an emulsifier do? Well, it breaks down fats. It emulsifies things. So it can have an emulsifying effect on the mucosal layers. Well, those mucosal layers are there for a reason, because they're protective to prevent things from getting into the body. So these are the things, the other shit that they put in that I really worry about. It's probably less of a problem in Europe and in Australasia, but in the United States in particular, where there's, it's the process industry is on steroids over there. And a lot of the milks are really, like they've got even seed oils in them, some of them, and a whole lot of other crap. A lot of the oils and a lot of the actual products that they're creating, like these, type of like chocolate flavored, sort of milks with a whole lot of other preservatives and crap in there. That's the real stuff that I really get concerned. Forget about pasteurization. That's just reduces the nutritional value of the micronutrient value of the product. But the other stuff that they put in there, that's the nasty stuff, and that's the stuff that I really worry about, Bjorn. But yes, it's primarily, to answer your question, it's that primarily we're losing a lot of the micronutrients and some of the enzymes and stuff like that, some of the beneficial components. And there's probably a lot that we don't even know. We know that certain substances sometimes in animal foods, when you heat them, they enhance and others diminish. And there's a lot that we don't know how they're affected, and we don't even know their nature, because sometimes they're so microscopic, they haven't even been measured or analyzed. And we're sort of always finding new stuffs in different foods and all that. And so that's why I'm not into the sort of raw for that. I'm for that reason. I don't want to miss out on these things, because I'm probably going to be missing out on certain benefits. That is why I consume raw milk, So, but if somebody can't afford it and all that, it's better to get some good animal foods in than nothing. So, yeah. Hope that sort of, it's a long-winded sort of answer, but these things sometimes are a bit on the sort of long-winded thing, because it's so new. All these things are so nuanced. It's just the reality of the way it is. Yeah. If you can get access to good quality animal foods, do enjoy them. Yeah, exactly. The retards, exactly. I agree. Absolute retards. For thousands of years we've been enjoying, wonderful raw dairy. Fuck me. Just gives me the shits. That's what I loved in Greece. I could actually have. I loved drinking raw dairy over there, and God, the amount of raw goat's milk that I enjoyed as a youngster. I used to have a glass of milk at a minimum with every single meal. So yeah, God, I miss those days. Yeah. Anyway, let's move on. Reminiscing. Yep, it's cost more compared to the supermarket. Yeah, look, I know. The reason is because of the supply. In the past, we had local production, and it was very close. So the cost was very low. It wasn't transport over long distances. And so even though it may have not had economies of scale, because you had lower transport costs, because it was within your immediate vicinity, supplying you that, it was competitive. But nowadays, most of the small farms and most of the they don't exist in big cities anymore. Unless you go to Japan, where you've got all these skyscrapers and you've got one piece of plot of land where some old geezer never sold up because this is his ancestral land, never gave up on it, and still cultivates and still has some animals on, and he's in the middle of fucking Tokyo. That only happens in Japan, places like that. But most cities have actually just got rid of all that animal stuff and send it far away, and you need to truck it in. And that's how it reduces the viability of this sort of type of food. In the past, we used to have some of this agriculture, like, milk production, chicken production, stuff like that, close by. So we could get basically animals that basically ate, bugs and stuff like that. They were free ranging because you didn't have to worry about, predators like out in the rural areas. And, the cost was very cheap. But these people used to supply the local restaurants in the area or to the sort of farmers markets in the area. So it was very cost competitive. But, these people got pushed out because of, city planning. So the planning authority said, well, you can't have this here anymore. That has to go elsewhere. And basically, this is going to be residential and only residential or only commercial of this sort or whatever. And so basically, these areas got pushed out where they used to be part of this, the surrounding part of the city supporting that city. They got pushed out into rural areas, and then the cost structure. And so smaller farmers, the competitive side came into it, and pretty much that's why we have these big agribusinesses controlling the food supply to the level that they are. Just the way it is. They call it progress. Yes. Yes, exactly. Drive them off. Yes, exactly. Definitely. We were. You just have to go to Africa. You go to Africa, that's the only continent. An animal sees you, it takes off. It knows who's boss in the animal kingdom. It definitely fucking knows. Yeah. Yeah, that sounds about right. The last one. Yeah. Yeah, their numbers really just declined rapidly because of biggest problem was that they weren't able to adapt very well because they had a lot of fatty tissue. See, as they, most of our animals now are much leaner because it's a warmer type environment. In a cold environment, you actually have to have more subcutaneous fat deposits to basically keep warm. That's why we had to create, when we got into agriculture and early animal domestication, they nearly came together. And at that stage, we used basically that to basically domesticate a whole lot of animals and then modify them to create more fattier animals because we knew the value of fat, so yes. Anyway, egg yolks to balance iodine supplements triggered months-long autoimmunity flare-ups, so I supplement. Yep, fair enough. Yeah, probably need to get on those B vitamins and D and some other things to try and improve the gut mucosal layer and stuff like that. Mucosal layer and tight junctions, very important. Vitamin D plays a big role there to close them up and reduce autoimmunity. That is why autoimmunity and vitamin D are strongly statistically correlated in thousands and thousands of studies. I would say, if I was a betting man, that vitamin D is one of the ultimate tools against autoimmunity. Harry, what is the highest insulin response meat, and does the amount affect the insulin response a lot? Okay. Good. That's a good question, actually. I think it's a fish, but I can't remember which one. Is it tilapia? No, maybe not. Oh God, I knew this, but I can't remember it. I can't remember it. Kate, sorry. Yeah, the lowest is pork. The highest is beef. Is somewhere in between because of the high leucine content. Yeah, for the bloody life of me, I can't remember. But yes, it varies. But it's not. We're not talking about massive here. Where the really important thing is that insulin to glucagon sort of ratio. That's really the important factor as well. So it's still going to be very low. It's not going to be that high. On its own, it's a blip. You don't have to worry about it. Just eating a potato or just potato and nothing else, pure starch, and being catabolic and not engaging the Randall cycle, your insulin to glucagon ratio will be 4. Insulin will be 0.8 when you're fasting to 1 in terms of insulin to glucagon ratio. If you're basically, let's say, having a steak, it's going to be about 1.3. It's going to be slightly lower than that with pork, and with certain fish, it's going to be slightly higher than that. But we're talking about it maybe 1.4, 1.5. It's still going to be way below anything the carbohydrates, way below anything. It's sort of a non-issue. Where it has the potential to be magnified is when you're in a caloric surplus with carbohydrates. That's when it becomes a problem. So it's a much more complex picture. On its own, the insulin situation is a non-issue because it's a blip. It's so little, the difference. The only difference is that the lower the insulin response obviously gives you a bit of a, if you're taking some carbohydrates in, it probably gives you a bit of a cheat window, but only marginally in terms as long as you stay below the threshold of caloric surplus, which engages the Randall cycle. Once you go above that, all bets are off, so to speak. So yeah, it's within a tight constraint of the non-Randall state. But in a Randall state all bets are off in that regard. Yep. Hope that it sort of explained things, Kate. About MK4, I wonder if there's any difference in animals given antibiotics versus not. Nah, absolutely nothing to do with fat-soluble vitamins have not affected in any way by antibiotics. When I worked in Norway, I was addicted to yogurt from, probably because there probably has like a lot of other acidophilus. That is actually it. That is basically, acidophilus actually increases the urge for sugar. It loves sugar. So everybody, all obese people actually have more acidophilus in their gut. And what does the food industry do? It puts acidophilus in everything. I wonder why. They want to increase your wanting to eat. So yes, when you see something that says acidophilus on it, put it back on the shelf or back in the fridge. Like some vegetards say that even meat eaters need to supplement B12. What the fuck? Due to animal given antibiotics. Absolutely cockwomble crap. Dylan, yes. But they're a bunch of cockwombles. Yes. Yep, you can supplement. I mean, I've got the choline supplement. It's actually, I took it to work. I should have brought it back. I may have to pop in tomorrow. Not tomorrow, on Tuesday. Yeah. Fuck it. I've got the additional eggs in. I'll just have some additional eggs, but fuck it. Yeah. So yeah, it's an option. And how much depends on your genetics as well. And things with, do you need to methylate estrogen? So if you've got high xenoestrogens, more choline can be a good methylator and removing those xenoestrogens. But don't go too high. Those extra 2 grams up to 3 grams will probably suffice. Well, you could probably go, could probably go as far as 5, but don't go immediately. Just step yourself up is the sort of thing. Your body will use it anyway for neurotransmitters, acetylcholine, and all sorts of other things if you have requirements. So it's probably less of an issue. But I don't like people sort of pushing things up really fast. I like them to step up. It's just let the body adjust and adapt, Don't always put it under strain. Be nice to it, and it will be nice to you. Yes, it's addicted because a lot of it has the commercial stuff in particular is full of acidophilus, and some of the pricks don't even put it on their description of what bacterial strains they used, which is really fucking annoying. So you have to go and research. If it's a traditional company doing a traditional way of doing dairy, less of a problem. If it's one of the commercial major companies, you know that the assholes have put the major strains that help with that. I actually found an Australian brie, and I eat brie like French brie. And I, once I have it, I'm full. I don't really want any more. And I noticed basically, I tried this Australian one, and I was using it for a number of weeks, and I know that my appetite kept on going up. I did some research, but I couldn't find anything on their site or any information or whatever. And I just came across a blog where somebody said that they heard from somebody. Now I can't confirm any of this. It was just on a blog that they also include acidophilus in theirs. The guy was actually just explaining the bacteria strains that they were using. And when I gave that up and went back to the French stuff, that sort of craving went away. They're a bunch of arseholes. That's all I can say about the food industry sometimes. They're not concerned about humans, and they fucking just want to basically addict you and keep eating, because the more they can keep you fucking eating, the more they can extract money out of your pocket. They're a bunch of fucking arseholes. Yeah, most are. The majority of yogurts out there are that. That's why I rarely buy yogurts. It's sometimes, it's a treat. I don't eat them on a regular basis because I know what's in them and why they're so addictive. Because traditional yogurts do not make you addictive. I used to consume lamb's yogurt in Greece, and I can tell you, you had one, you felt satiated because it didn't have acidophilus or anything like that. It was traditionally made. You were full until lunchtime. So you didn't need any more. You got satiety because there was very, very concentrated protein in it. And they are thick. They're not watery like ours, really thick, and need a spoon to spoon it out. It's a thick sort of yogurt. And I tell you, it wasn't addictive. You didn't feel like, oh, I need another one. Like when you've had sugar or something like that, you still feel hungry after. I didn't feel hungry after and didn't crave anything after, because it was done in a traditional way. But a lot of these arsehole companies, they piss me off. They really do a number on us with all these other chemicals that they put things in and certain bacterial strains to deliberately addict us. Leaky gut and leaky brain barrier could be the cause of tiny sores all over scalp that can't get rid of over 20 years. Tried everything. Any ideas to heal up? You've got over scalp sores and stuff like that. Look, when you get, it's like the video that I haven't done on alopecia, but anyway, this is the thing that nobody talks about with alopecia, but also with some of this scarring that actually happens. I'll tell it, even though I was going to put in the video. I will still do the video at some time, but I'll actually let the cat out of the bag. Calcium deposits. There are calcium deposits that end up in the scalp. They actually are part of that alopecia effect, and also some of that scarring effect and all that. Again, dysregulation and all that. MK4 plays a big role in clearing some of that stuff out. It just takes longer. The problem is I would also massage the scalp to, you could say, with some sort of oil type thing to sort of create like a softening effect to sort of help that process along as well. So, but that's part of it. And the problem is that piece of calcification is much harder to remove, I can tell you, because I had it as well, and I still got a bit, and while it's reduced, it's taken fucking ages. It is an absolute bastard thing to remove. I don't know why. I think it's just the area of the tissue is much harder to sort of mobilize that sort of stuff out of there. Anyway, there you go. Giving away more of my secrets before I do the damn video. Well, 1 gram. Complex person, unsure, Harry. Is that the choline thing? Taurine. Yep. If you're going to go up in taurine, you've got to go slowly. 1, 2. It's this lockstep thing. You don't go fast with taurine, and especially if you're on. This is not medical advice, especially when you're on blood pressure medication or coming off them. You need to have a physician that monitors your and to adjust your meds, basically. So just for anybody out there that may be thinking of taking, because it does lower blood pressure as well. It could be. It could be potentially. Why did I lose my space again? Oh, fucking hell, StreamYard. God almighty. Got it. 38, mate. Happy birthday. Yes, he's a young man. Come on, move. Yep, you got to clear that stuff out. Definitely clear that stuff out. From Vikings to vegans, yeah, I know. How crazy is that? Very woke, I would say. I'm progressive. I like progress. I'm not against change, but fundamentally, they've become all fucking plant-eating woke fuckwits, cockwombles. Uncle Alf, mate. Hope you're enjoying the entertainment and all the banter. And me being typically, less than polished. Yeah, that's shit. But even worse is that, the low. I was going to have a coffee at work, and the full cream had been used and was only the low fat stuff there. And I go, and I gave it a try. I emptied out the coffee. It was so foul. No fat in it. It just tasted so crappy, watery and shitty. And I'm going, this is shit. I just emptied it out. I went over to one of the guys, to Mark, his name is, we call him Noonsy. And I go, Mark, because I know he had some of his own. And I said, could I borrow something? He said, yeah, go ahead, Harry. And I was able to have a nice coffee because it was just absolute shit, that stuff. God. Homogenized is bad, but you have never tried. I mean, if anybody hasn't tried low-fat milk, I mean, like the nearly zero type low-fat milk, oh my God. It's like, oh God, it's shit. Never tried something so foul in my life. I don't know how people drink that and think they're drinking milk. What was that? I do intend at some point to do something in that regard. Still researching some parameters in that regard. Oh, there is I just noticed Alex has got. Let me just give me a sec. What am I sharing? So we don't miss this. Let me just put that up. What what just fucking happened? And so that's a brief. So, there's a UK site. Yeah. Carafilly cheese. What's the difference between cheddar, Carafilly? Carafilly is typically a very light in color, almost white, while cheddar is often a warmer golden yellow. Okay. Carafilly has a lactic, fresh, lemony flavor and slightly crumbly texture. Oh, okay. I've actually never tried it. I should get some and give it a go and give it a try. Oh, there you go. Very interesting. Thanks for that, Alex. Something to look into. Because I'm always, when it comes to cheeses, I do love cheeses, and I have a tendency basically to always sort of look into different cheese varieties, because I'm not saying that the stuff that I consume is boring in sort of any respect in that regard, but it's nice to sort of try something completely different. Where it's it's sort of always nice to try something different that in that regard, because you sort of get into like the French, Italian cheeses, or in my case the Greek Italian and stuff like that, and some of the general sort of varieties that are out there, but we don't try enough regional and variations from other parts of the world. And when you do, I've tried some Eastern European stuff, especially when I was traveling through in 2006 after the World Cup soccer in Germany, and then we sort of went through Eastern Europe and my mate, let alone all the beer that we picked up and stuff like that. But we also had certain cheeses and stuff like that. But that's the is that a seaweedy? Is that the seaweedy thing I think you're talking about, isn't it? Stuff that they put in stuff. I think that's Just remind me. Can you actually tell me what it is? I think it's the seaweed stuff, isn't it? Or is it, Kate? It's like a seaweedy thing that they put. I can't remember. I think just let me know, because I just can't remember for the life of me. So do bring it up. So I was here, then here, and here, and here. So I found my spot. Can you remind me what it was? Or is Kate gone? She's probably gone. Yep, more about that sort of stuff. Shampoos. You guys are talking about yourself. Look up Dean Harris regarding Yowie. Okay, I'll do that. I'll take a look when I get a chance. In that regard, if anybody knows what Kate was asking, I've heard of it. I think it's basically these sort of they're like sort of like an additive thing. but I think it is what she actually asked, because I do want to. It's part of the video on the gut that I want to do, which is all these emulsifiers, how they work and all that and stuff like that. Oh, okay, Zombie. It's British red seaweed. I've heard it's bad for the gut. Okay, yeah, okay. It's in a list of things because I sort of, and that's why it sounded familiar, but I just couldn't remember what it is, because there's a whole lot of different things. Irish moss. That sounds more familiar. Yep. Gotcha. Yep. Now I know what you're talking about. Okay. So it's also called that as well. Now I understand, at least, because I wasn't sure. I thought I knew, but I wasn't 100%. Thanks, I appreciate it, Zombie. Let's move on. What did Sam ask? I've been trying to get my hands on some cheese for K2. I've kept reading pasteurized milk as the main ingredient. How do you bacteria like that fermenting? Pretty much the most of the K2, it will be in bacteria that produce it. So it will be certain cheeses will have more and different menaquinones. So one of the recent videos I did, I actually explained some of the menaquinones in certain animal foods. It was limited. I know, I do recognize that. That is something that I'll be doing, showing all the different menaquinones. What else was I going to... And the profile of them. Now, what is the one that we mostly need? MK4, which is the animal form. So which of the... So Brie, Camembert, and Gouda are probably your best sources of that in the terms of dairy. Some of the other menaquinones, they will get converted, but they still have to get converted. MK7 can be a poor converter in some humans, so which is the other thing. So that is why I always talk about MK. And I had a recent one that I was a critique on Chris Master John on in regards to these menaquinones. So go please and check that out, and that's some information. But I do intend, it's a video that I want to do on the different sources of menaquinone 4. But as I pointed out, menaquinone 4 is the only K2 that has a direct effect on the genome. No other K2 does. That's how important it's on the body. I could do hours and hours of videos on MK4, but that's for a later date. Anyway, yep, it does. It does. But I do not remember, and that's a Norwegian cheese, but I do not remember the exact content of menaquinone 4 in that. If you do, let me know. But it'll be part of that sort of presentation. It's a study that's actually looked at all the cheeses and their content and all that. So it'll be something that I'll be putting up in that regard. What's your take on processed meat and nitrates or other additives? I usually consume cured meats, which are cured based on salt and nothing else. But nitrates, there's more nitrates in basically things like green leafy vegetables, far more than in processed meat. And the nitrates in processed meat are not really going to have any deleterious effects. Why do I avoid meats with nitrates? It's not because of the nitrates. It's because a lot of these processed meats also have quite a bit of fructose in. That means carbohydrates that they've added in with the nitrates and a whole lot of other crap. Why? Because it's cheaper. Simple as that. Traditional curing with salt is more labor involved and more costly. That's why they don't do it as much. That's why they stick so much preservatives and sugar and nitrates in stuff, because it's cheaper. And then they add a bit of sodium just to basically say, oh, it's got some sodium in. Some of the, so that's the reason. Processed meats, some of the biggest problems with processed meats is they can slightly, depending on the processing and all that, can be slightly affected, in particular if you're looking at jerkies and stuff like that. They do lose a lot of the micronutrients because of the way they're actually, you get rid of all the moisture. You pretty much drain out a lot of the micronutrients. So that's a bit of a problem. But when you're looking at something like bacon or whatever, I mean, I've shown a study where just giving pure bacon with nitrates and everything else, standard, just low quality bacon, to rats which were given in their colon induced cancer, it was protective. So the bacon with salt combined to be protective, where the other stuff didn't, which blows all that theory up out the door completely. So I don't consider it's the best quality stuff. Sort of your general run-of-the-mill processed meats. But if you want to say you could have this or carbohydrates, I'd pick that processed meat before I pick the carbohydrates. Simple as that. It'd be a very easy, but I would rather have a better quality processed meat, which is cured in a traditional way. And I usually actually, when I do buy meats, I usually buy Italian, French. If I can get Greek, sometimes I can. I do. And certain other parts where they're done. There is some stuff like at Signet, which is to the south of Hobart in Tasmania. There's a Signet butcher, and he cures a lot of his stuff traditionally and smokes a lot of the bacon in a traditional way, and it's really nice. You can even eat it. This smoked stuff raw, really nice. So I sometimes cut it in small pieces and combine it with cheese and have it like a cracker on a cheese, type thing. So that's really nice. So it depends, but it's less of a problem. It's more the other crap that they've put in there, not the nitrates, not the salt. And even the sugar is a bit of an issue. It depends how much. But it's a lot of the other fucking preservatives and other stuff that they put in the emulsifiers and all that. They're really nasty on the gut lining. That's the problem. So the more ingredients you see in processed meat, the more it's best to leave it on the shelf or in the fridge, because it's not going to be good. So a lot of the other crap that's in there. So hope that answered your question, Homo. Proteolitis. Great to dream. You just need to translate that into actions, my boy. The micronutrient, not macronutrient, micronutrient. And you don't have to worry about the denaturing. The stomach will friggin' denature everything down to amino acids, so you don't have to worry at all. And then reuse that as building blocks with enzymatic, transcripted little nanomachines. Wonderful, those nanomachines that are built by the body. Hey, Harry, I read the book from Weston A. Price. Yep, really good. Yep, the one on physical degeneration. Yep, a top book. I do have a copy of it myself, and it was amazing. Do you have other book suggestions on the topic, indigenous diets, etc.? Off the top of my head, no. I will do something at some point looking at some of these. There is a lot of other stuff. There's basically, The Fat of the Land by Stefansson, which is pretty good as well. I've read that. There's some others, like there were sort of like article type things from George V. Mann, who did research on the Maasais, and actually I think he did write I can't remember the book. I haven't read it, but he did write something about these populations. So there's a couple like that. There's a couple that I've heard that other people have told me about hunting, some traditional hunting, sort of like especially North American Plain Indians and all that, and some of their hunting techniques and all that. And there's some stuff in that regard. So, yeah, look, compared to all the health problems that people have and stuff like that come to my channel, it's a lower priority, but it's something that I won't neglect. It is on my bucket list of things to do for the channel, ultimately. So stay tuned. You never know. I may throw one or two things in there just out of, I've got a bit of free time and I feel like it. I will be doing Marco, a certain historical stuff like I've done the recent stuff, because I do find value in them. And the value that I find is basically that by letting people know how this bullshit emerged and all that, it allows people to basically understand how they were conned. And also because a lot of the vegetarians out there say, oh, the past was very different. It was more plant-based. No, it wasn't. And that's bullshit. So you bring the past forward and you go, this is what it was. And when it was more plant-based, like in Egypt, they had cardiovascular disease, and it was well recorded by their physicians and described in great detail. And there's also autopsies that actually support the argument that their kibble primarily diet basically gave them cardiovascular disease. And that is before even refined sugar. Exactly. Just high carbohydrate diets, low fat which is what the nutritionists are pushing. Forget about the modern SAD diet, which is just shit on steroids. We're just talking even what the nutritionists are pushing is exactly what the Egyptians were eating. And basically, yeah, sick as. Yes. Look, that's it. That one, definitely. But there's quite a few others. You love your mum, don't you? You're a good boy, Richard. I also took a good look at 82% butter, I actually love butter. I have to say, I do love butter. I love actually cooking. I will basically cook like a bone broth type thing and then add eggs, beat them, put the warm water into the fluid into the actual eggs to bring them to the same temperature, and then combine them, and then I will add butter to that and mix it in, and a bit of cream. Making me fucking hungry. It's nearly 9 o'clock. Well, that's done. That's finished. That was late me finishing. Forget about, time restricted feeding not happening today and tomorrow at lunchtime, which is basically, 3 hours to go, which is basically 15 hours, 15 by the time the steaks are ready. Probably nearly 16 hours. So I'm just going to scrape in by a little margin, but I don't give a shit. Probably only going to be 15 because I'll turn up and Sean will go, here's a drink. Have a gin, mate. Yeah. So, yeah. On the rocks. We definitely need some anabolism. You go to zero, you're dead. Yes. And you don't want to be too catabolic because that ain't healthy at all. Kate, where are you? She's not here. She missed replying to me. Thanks, heaps. You're welcome, Kate. But the other thing I did actually forget, now that I saw Kate, what I talked about, all those emulsifiers and all that, and Irish moss and, and all that sort of stuff. And thanks, for Zombie, for basically reminding me which one it was. These additives, there's a two-part to that. That's one of these sort of, and the other one is the emulsifiers. There's a long fucking list of emulsifiers and all these different numbers, and they have different effects on the gut lining. So that's another thing. So what will happen is in the future, you'll be able to look at this and then go, okay, my family members, they're still going to eat, they may want to consume some of this sort of stuff. Let's try and get the product which has got, it's going to cause less problems to their gut, So that's the other thing. Yes. Anyway, we are at 3 hours. Fuck. Time flies when you're having fun. Yes. It's 9 o'clock and I should have changed my glasses an hour ago. We're in the Roy. It's the Roy party. Where is basically T1 to basically have a bit of a laugh. Yes, it's the Roy hour. It should have been half an hour ago. Fuck me. Forgetting myself. I didn't have T1 here to remind me. Fucking Blinky. Never on the job when you need him. So I'm going to cycle through these like a mad fucking dog. I'm not even going to read them. Shit fucking happens. And I'm going to just go through. And so is it going to, oh, fuck. StreamYard, don't do that. Don't be nasty. God, I didn't realize I was that far behind. Fuck me. It's exhausting. Oh, fuck. I'm going to go to the bottom. Finished. It's just the way it is, guys. Look, Richard, StreamYard, it does make it bloody easy to do a lot of things. Got dextrose in this salami then. I've got salt, also sodium nitrate, potassium sorbate. Or I throw this away. I don't like throwing away food. Just don't buy it again. The small amounts are not going to be really deleterious. Let's put it that way. It's going to be a blip, as long as you're not basically jugging down a whole lot of other refined stuff. And in particular, it's the macros, sugar, honey, fructose and glucose and all these things. These are really that push these anabolic pathways beyond the healthy physiological limits. That's what really is going to cause. And, dextrose, yes, it can have some negative effect, but in the amount, it's quite minor. And the same thing with the nitrates, sort of a blip. It's really the other emulsifiers that they put in there and some of the other chemicals and stuff like that. But if it's small amounts, your liver can detox that sort of stuff. It's less of a problem. It depends on the load. If it's too much of a load, you're actually adding a whole lot of processed stuff. You're going to actually load up your liver with so much work to do. That's going to be a problem. But if you're on a low inflammatory diet, you have a bit of processed food now and then, and it's at a lower threshold, which means your liver can cope with that to clear it out, because that's what's supposed to do, detox and deal with that. Your two main detoxification organs, are pretty much your liver and kidneys. And again, when it comes to getting rid of acid and stuff like that. You basically, your lungs and your kidneys. So the body's got all these capacities. It's only when we overload it to the level where it can't cope that it really gets into the danger zone. So don't go down the reductionist sort of thing where you get, but the less of these egregious things you put into your mouth, you're going to see better benefits. If you put some now and then, you're not going to basically die, believe me. If you go to my About page, you can actually get my email there, which is see, I don't have to act that I'm a robot. Oh, let me just get it. Email. And the nice thing about this email address, it's based in Switzerland, the company, and it's encrypted, which basically means that anything you send me is fully encrypted in Switzerland and no government in the world can access it, which is great because it's protected under Swiss law. So Proton Mail is a fully encrypted email service, protected, and your little brothers and big brothers can't get to it. So that's why I used it specifically for you guys to be able to email me stuff. And if it's personal or whatever, nobody can ever know because I'm the only person that will see it, and it's encrypted, which is great. And it's held in a country where they don't give stuff out to other countries because they've got laws that protect these sort of privacy things. You're welcome, mate. I'm about to go anyway. So it's my last sort of few things like that. Bjorn, thanks, mate. Appreciate your contributions in the stream today as well. And many of the rest of yous, I do appreciate it. Yes, I do use a VPN. Yes, you got it in today's world, unfortunately. Yes, little brother and big brother are watching all the time. Believe me. There's also another web browser called Brave you can use, which reduces some of the snooping of the Googles of the world and stuff like that. So there's options out there, guys, you can use to minimize. You can't eliminate your footprint. If you're on a social media, you can't. But what you can do is you can minimize their intrusion, their monitoring, and at least protect the people you love and try and prevent these people from snooping on our private information. Because if they can, they will. Believe me, they will bloody will. Thanks, mate. Appreciate it. Appreciate all your support. Look, you guys make this possible. You basically, guys, make this possible. It's, it's not, I contribute the information, but, if you guys don't turn up, not going to happen. So I do thank you from the bottom of my heart for basically supporting this channel. Please like and subscribe if you haven't. Please share this information. I know live streams are a bit of a difficulty thing, but there may be stuff that I've actually done, like little videos on different things, and you may think, well, some of your friends or relatives or may be interested in them. Just share those. That at least will be like a way, an avenue for them to link up to my channel and find out about it. So, and I do appreciate you guys. I mean, because it's 3 hours, like a marathon, these live streams, but a lot of you guys just stay along and stick to it. And I appreciate that, because many other people, they'll drop off streams. I won't stay that long. You guys are a lot of consistent, support me right through to the end. And so I do appreciate it a lot. Thank you. So guys, yes, hit the like button. Yes, thanks, Alex. And take care, everyone. I will see you next week. Expect a few little things through this week, because I'll have quite a few days off. And while I'll be doing things with other friends and family, I will basically try and get a bit of extra content out this week on a number of things, both, so expect the unexpected. Anyway, take care and see you guys. I love you all.